Ms. Smith.
Here.
Myself am here. Fox is
On her way?
on her way. And Dr. Blau.
I'm here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Mr. Walker. We will now move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Tanya Corbett, interim principal at North Farmington High School, would you please do the honors? Thank you. Okay. We will now move to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
I move that the Board of Education approve the September 20th, 2022 regular meeting agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion put forward by Ms. Smith, supported by Mr. Walker. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion passes. Oh, I forgot to say, are there any nays? No nays? Okay. All right, we'll now move to announcements. So we have some board agreements that we are following here as a board: to listen actively with no sidebar conversations during our meeting, to respect people and ideas, presume positive intent, use electronic devices respectfully and stay engaged, listen to learn, not to defend, be brave and be vulnerable. We ask that all of us, board members and guests alike, respect these guidelines during tonight's meeting. Thank you in advance. Okay. During our board retreat on August 27th, we as a board began discussing our goals as a Board of Education for the 2022-23 school year. While we are still developing these goals, we would like to share with you tonight some of the items we have that we plan to include thus far. There are 4 key areas so far that we are focusing on. 1 is board education, 2 is exploring innovation, 3 is executing on vision and strategy in our district, and 4th, community engagement. Under each of those headings, under the board goal of board education, one of our goals for this year is to develop a member onboarding process for new board members and to improve data literacy. Again, these are just our draft goals so far. In the area of exploring innovation, to address learning loss and opportunity gaps, and also explore options within the current Michigan Merit curriculum where we might make modifications to our program to better meet the needs of our students and still have them ready to graduate with their full high school diploma. Under our board goal number 3, executing on vision and strategy, we're looking to align our new profile of the lifelong learner with our policies, our board policies, and make adjustments to our board policies as needed to support that profile. And also to collaborate to update the Farmington Public School mission and vision statements to also further align with our profile of a lifelong learner. And 4th, we would like to, in the area of community engagement, create opportunities for actual dialogue between the community and the board. Public comment is not an opportunity for dialogue. We only have an opportunity to hear what folks have to say. We would like to create opportunities for dialogue around those topics that are of particular interest and or concern to the community. So those are so far some of the goals that we are considering. And we will have an open board meeting sometime in the near future so that those who wish to hear us further deliberate and decide upon those are welcome to attend. Okay. Moving on to items from the Secretary. Mr. Walker, can you please provide your report?
Yes, the board has received communications regarding Farmington STEAM Academy School speed limit concerns, students in the 2023 class, motivational speaker, and school protective and safety service. Communications are acknowledged, and when appropriate, a response is provided. A list of correspondence can be found in the board packet, which is available on the FPS website.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walker. Oh, by the way, I have microphone power, but the rest of us don't, so if you need the microphone, I can pass it to you. I think that's true also at our podium, so I'll bring that up there for you. Okay, tonight the board welcomes and celebrates a group of Farmington Public School students and teachers who traveled to Costa Rica this year. Dr. Delgado, would you like to introduce them?
Absolutely. It is my pleasure to welcome up to our podium our presenter, Ms. Lauren O'Neill, our group leader and Spanish teacher at North Farmington High School, who has some additional folks with her to talk about their much-awaited and anticipated trip to Costa Rica, June 21st through 29th, 2022. So I will turn it over to Ms. O'Neill.
All right. I've got some slides that kind of go with my little speech about Costa Rica, as Dr. Delgado so eloquently put it, in a great Spanish accent. So once we get this up, we'll get going, but I'll start my introduction. So good evening, my name is Lauren O'Neill. I teach Spanish at North Farmington High School. I was the group leader for the June 2022 trip to Costa Rica, and I'm super excited to share it with you. So thank you again to Dr. Delgado and Dr. Blau for the invitation this evening to share more about the value of international travel in our district. I'm pleased to be joined by some of our student and adult travelers tonight. They'll also be sharing some words about their experience on the trip. All right, so this is us in front of La Cascada de Ángel, Angel Falls. This is one of our first group pictures we took. So a little bit about our trip. We traveled with EF Tours, which is a very popular travel company for student travel. They've been in the business for over 55 years, so I felt really confident traveling with them. They have everything covered. They cover the planning process, the tour guides, everything. It was a really easy experience, as hard as planning an international trip is with lots of kids. They made it a really simple process, so it was really good. The planning for this actually began 4 years ago in 2018, and as you can imagine, COVID hit, and we were postponed and postponed and postponed, and I said, by golly, I'm gonna get this trip off the ground. So in 2022, we finally got to go. And so we took a tour group of 37 students from North Farmington High School, 3 adult travelers, and 6 staff chaperones. So it was a big endeavor. We went for 9 days at the end of June. So we were out of school for about 4 days, and we were hitting the road. Some of the highlights, this is kind of the map of where we went. So we went to San Jose, then we went to the Arenal region, down to Monteverde, which is a very lush and green rainforesty area. Then we went down to the Central Pacific Coast for some beach time, went to a local artisan town called Sarchi, and we also went to Manuel Antonio National Park. So some of the highlights we did were a coffee plantation tour, chocolate plantation tour. We went to a naturally heated hot springs. We did a hike around the volcano. We learned how to make empanadas. We visited La Fortuna waterfall, which is even bigger than the one that you saw in the picture. We did kayaking across a lake. We did a hike at night and saw some wildlife in the jungle, which was all we had were our tour guides and our little flashlights. It's pretty awesome. We did zip lining through the forest canopy. We visited a local farm, took a crocodile boat safari, and we finished off with a folklore evening with some traditional dance and music. But I think it's better to just see the kids doing the activities. And so here are some pictures from our trip. And so just describing what's in the picture, our coffee plantation tour. We have our student Ashna, who's grinding some cacao beans, swimming in the hot springs. The kids were obsessed with snacks. They bought all the Costa Rican snacks all the time. Swimming in the waterfall and kayaking as well. Couple more pictures. We had to wear our ponchos every day because it was the rainy season, and so we got rained on every single day. But the kids took it in stride, and they were really awesome. We saw our farm. We saw lots of chickens and cows, and got to hold them and pet them, and the kids were just delighted. These are helmets on for zip lining through the jungle, and lots of friendships were made. And a couple more. We have Ashna again, looking like she's about to be attacked by a monkey. It was nice. It's okay. She didn't get attacked. And we took a gondola ride through the forest canopy. As you can see, the views are just beautiful. We had some time on the beach, and we tried some local fruits at a local fruit stand. So we got to really immerse ourselves in the local culture, and it was a fantastic experience. So at this point, I'm going to invite some of my guests up just to share a couple words. I have a few students and a few adult travelers, and they're going to just say a couple words about their experience. So I'll invite Ms. Haunter up first.
I'm Brittany Haunter. I teach special education at North Farmington, and I was able to be a chaperone on this trip. What I noticed very quickly when we landed in Costa Rica, the impact of the students not being in a familiar setting, whether it's their home, their school, their community. But then you could start to see their skills pick up, whether it was Spanish speaking, problem solving, or self-advocacy, in order to be able to get through the 9 days successfully. And having gone on this trip, I truly see how the impact of student travel helps students to be able to navigate life after high school successfully, and think it really does serve their greater good.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, my name is Karma, and in Costa Rica, my favorite part of the trip was I personally really enjoy speaking Spanish and learning about the different language, and being able to actually speak with natives and have full conversations in Spanish was something that I haven't been able to do before, and that was just really exciting for me because it's just very enjoyable. And being there with all of my friends also made it really fun. And even though it was kind of scary and different sometimes, because I've never been out of the country before then, we always had them to go hang out. And she's talking about the snacks. Every night we would go out into the town and try all the snacks, like get all the snacks we could buy, and just go back to our hotel room and try them all. And it was just a great experience. I had a lot of fun.
Right. Hi, my name is Casey. My favorite part of the trip was probably just the hikes and then the bus ride, actually, because our tour guide was an ecology major, and so he knew so much about the environment, about all the mountains that we saw, and about all the different kinds of monkeys and the sloths that we saw. And it was really interesting to see how other students and how I grew in how I spoke Spanish in an actual, like, real world environment as opposed to just in the classroom. And I think that we're all better people for it. So I had a lot of fun.
Hi, my name is Isabel. This is my first time going to somewhere out of the country that's more southern, and I really like this trip because I was able to practice my Spanish, which I really like learning Spanish. Me and my sister always talk Spanish, but I've never been somewhere where I can practice a lot more. So I was able to improve on my Spanish, and I was also able to try a lot of different foods and see a bunch of new places. I also made a lot of new friends here, some people I've never even met. And I think it's important for students to go on trips like this because it gives them a chance to try new things and learn about different cultures and environments and just make new friends and branch out.
So thank you guys for sharing all of your thoughts about this experience. So this is kind of our last little bit. The benefits of student travel, I think, fit perfectly with our new lifelong learner profile. It's developing all those skills in a real-world environment. So we're developing global perspectives and understanding that the world is bigger than Farmington and Farmington Hills. Language and cultural immersion, you heard some of the students say that they appreciated the opportunity to practice their skills in a real-world environment. Life skills, building confidence, putting yourself out there. Adaptability, when things didn't go right, we figured it out and we moved on. And the students did a great job with that. And developing maturity. I think the students came back and they felt like they could handle situations in a little bit more mature way, and they had developed in that way. And of course, making connections and friendships. A lot of the students that I had never seen hanging out at North Farmington now talk to each other all the time. So that's really rewarding as well. And so I'm excited to say our future North Farmington destinations in June of 2023, we'll be going to France and Spain. 2024, we are going to Costa Rica again. And in 2025, who knows where we'll end up next. And so I really do appreciate you inviting us here. Muchas gracias.
Any comments?
Hola, ¿cómo está? You could have at least told us the recipe of your empanadas. My abuela used to make the best empanadas. I used to eat the cheese or the meat, so you got to give me your recipe of what empanadas you had. Thank you for going and sharing your experience, so thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
I think this is so fabulous, and it's something that we need to continue to get behind, because it's really hard to have empathetic people in a world they've never seen before. And as you allow for these experiences for our students and for us as adults as well, the more we see, the more we understand, the more connections we can make about people thousands of miles away. So congratulations, way to be persistent through COVID, and I can't wait to find out what happens in 2025.
This is, go ahead. I was going to say, this is so exciting that you all went on this trip, and to hear about the kinds of adventures that you had and the relationships that you built together, the things that you discovered about Costa Rica, about speaking Spanish, about each other, and about yourselves. Most importantly, now that you've gone, you've been out of the country, you've managed whatever struggles came about during the course of your trip. Oh my gosh, I'm in my kayak and my oar is in the water, whatever kinds of things, befell you during your trip. You know that you can. You know that you can. You can get through it. So congratulations. Thank you so much for sharing. And if you need a chaperone next time. Thank you so much.
Pues para mí, muchísimas gracias a nuestro participante. Y yo tengo una pregunta para los estudiantes, así que ponte a pie. Can you give them the microphone? Así que tengo una pregunta para ustedes. Ponte de pie, porfa, please. As we say, porfa, please, por favor. No te preocupes, no es muy difícil, pero ¿cuál es tu memoria favorita de Costa Rica?
¿En español?
Sí, claro que sí.
Okay, gonna preface this with I've only taken 2 years. But cuando nosotros fuimos a las cascadas y nos nadamos, fue muy divertido y me encanta.
Muchísimas gracias. I'll translate after, for those who don't know.
Me encantó bailar con el hombres y mis amigas y tratar la comida de Costa Rica.
Fantástico.
Me encantaría las noches de las tarjetas con mis amigos, y el power outage. Fue divertido.
Otra vez, muchísimas gracias por presentar. Gracias. So for those who didn't understand, they loved, first of all, going to the waterfalls that they were able to see, to taste the different foods, to dance with their friends, and to be with their group and play cards with each other, and really just experience Costa Rica. And they said they had a power outage, a big una tormenta like we have right now going on in Puerto Rico and in the Caribbean all across the storm. And so they had a power outage, and then they were able to play cards and be together as family. So I wanted you to come this evening just to highlight the importance of experiential learning, whether it's local, if it's regional, if it's international. I think Mr. Walker said it wonderfully, is we can't develop, into when we think of our profile of a learner, individuals with compassion and empathy for others without experiencing something beyond where you live. And so I think the teachers, the chaperones who were able to participate and create this experience for 30, it looked like 37 kids that were students that were able to go. So, and now that we're post-pandemic, we hope to have more and more of these opportunities. So thank you so much for coming tonight.
Ms. Heinrich?
I just want to put a postscript on this because, yeah, maybe should I do the microphone?
Yeah.
Sure. I could use my teacher voice, but microphone's great. We talked about the teacher shortage, and I just wanted to share that one of my daughters is a Spanish teacher, and the reason she's a Spanish teacher is because of her Spanish department at Farmington High School. So by giving your students opportunities to experience not only Spanish in the classroom, but the culture and going out into the world and practicing, and even coming and being able to speak and have a Spanish conversation with the superintendent of schools, that's kind of a big deal. I was pretty impressed with the finesse and the poise that your students had. And so these opportunities, while you don't really realize, but we're growing future leaders and future teachers and planting that seed. So thank you for all of your work.
Thank you, Ms. Heinrich. Okay. Next, we have our legislative update. A group of House Democrats in Congress recently sent a letter to their leadership urging the reinstatement of the free universal school meals program in the upcoming federal budget. Oakland County's Representative Haley Stevens also signed the letter, so we'll wait to hear if there's any additional information or movement on that. Let's move on to district updates. Dr. Delgado?
Thank you, President Blau. And our superintendent update, just a couple of things. Welcome to the middle of September. We have really hit our stride. So as we tour the buildings, we know that students and staff are really, back in feeling a sense of normalcy. When you go to the games and you go to the activities and you walk the hallways and talking to people, they really feel that this is finally feeling like a normal school year. And so there's a palpable energy in the building. So I just want to thank everybody for their commitment to the good work they do every day. One update that actually ironically was timed, we had already planned to have this group present to us tonight, but I want to welcome everybody to Hispanic Heritage Month. So you may be aware that Hispanic Heritage Month is from September 15th through October 15th, where we celebrate the contributions of Hispanic and Latino Americans in our country. You may wonder why it began in the middle of the month on September 15th. So in 1968, LBJ actually signed a week for Hispanic Heritage Week for this very reason, to acknowledge the contributions of Hispanic and Latino Americans in our country. In 1988, Ronald Reagan expanded that and made it an entire month. And so the reason they picked September 15th is it's a very important day for many, many Latin American countries. It marks the day of independence from Spain for many countries, including Costa Rica that we saw, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Guatemala. And then September 16th is Mexico's Independence Day. So many people get that confused. They think it's Cinco de Mayo, which is the 5th of May, if you know your Spanish. It's not their Independence Day. So, but that's why it happens in the middle of the month, and we have a full month, and we have a significant population in our country. Latino Americans are about 20%, maybe 21% of the entire country. And so We just appreciate opportunities like this, whether you're a heritage speaker or somebody just learning a language. It's more than the language, it's the culture, and it's understanding different parts of the world. So just wanted to acknowledge that. And then move right into very exciting appointments. So we have administrative introductions and appointments. I will start with our new Assistant Superintendent of Talent Development. I'll invite him, Mr. Brad Paddock, to come up to the podium as I share a little bit about Mr. Paddock. We can give him a hand when he comes up. So as we all know, Ms. Kathy Smith, our former Assistant Superintendent of Talent Development, retired from Farmington after 33 and a half years in Farmington's public school district. We held an extensive search for this very important position, which oversees the District Human Resources Department. Mr. Paddock, Brad Paddock, rose to the top of candidates and was selected to serve as our next Assistant Superintendent of Talent Development. Mr. Paddock formerly served as the Executive Manager of Human Resources for the Walled Lake Consolidated School District. Brad has served in this role since 2018 after serving as the Interim Human Resources Manager. Prior to that, he was one of the best principals, I can say, as this was my former district, of Sarah Banks Middle School from 2010 to 2018, and assistant principal in the district since 2003. Mr. Paddock earned his Bachelor of Science with a major in technology education from Eastern Michigan and his Master of Education in Ed Leadership from Wayne State University. He also earned his K-12 Administrator Human Resources Specialist Certificate from Michigan State University. Brad is an experienced, highly effective educator who is personable, collaborative, and hardworking, said Farmington Public Schools Superintendent me. We are very excited to have him join our team. And Brad shared, I'm excited to join the Farmington Public Schools team and humbled by the opportunity this position represents. And we'll open it up for Brad if you would like to share a few more words, but welcome to the team, Brad.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Board of Education. It is a pleasure to be welcomed truly into the Farmington Education family. I'm joined here tonight by my extremely supportive wife, Elizabeth, who is a proud and successful graduate of the Farmington Public Schools. And I will say yes, there you go. Yes. And she is in the public education field. She is an orchestra teacher in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. So it feels great to be working and giving back to a community that honestly provided her and her family so much guidance in their youth. And so I feel really, really honored to be here. I'm certainly thankful to you, Dr. Delgado, for this opportunity. And I commit to all of you, the Board of Education, the employees of Farmington Public School, the students, and my wonderful HR team. I will work tirelessly to provide you the very, very best I can do each and every day for our district and our team. And once again, thank you. And I'm honored to be joining the HR team here in Farmington. So thank you so much.
Sure. We have another one.
We can keep it down there.
And next up, we have another administrative introduction appointment for you. Our new Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I'll ask to come to the podium, Mr. Greg Smith. So our current Lanigan Elementary School principal, Mr. Gregory Smith, has been selected as Farmington Public Schools' new Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Greg has been in Farmington Public Schools since 2007. He started his career in 2007 in the district as a resource room co-teacher at Farmington High School. Over the years, he also served as the secondary summer school principal and assistant principal at Power Middle School before becoming principal at Lanigan Elementary in 2016. Mr. Smith earned his Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education and his Master's of Education in Special Education from Wayne State University. He earned his Ed Specialist degree in Leadership and Administration from Oakland University and is currently pursuing his Ed Doctorate from Oakland University. Mr. Smith serves as a board member on the Farmington and Farmington Hills Foundation for Youth and Families and is involved in both the Oakland County African American Administrators Network and the Oakland County Council for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Social Justice. I look forward to continuing to serve our community in a greater capacity, said Greg, and I'm sure he'll share some more words of wisdom. And then I shared that we are so excited to have Mr. Smith continue the legacy, the long legacy and proud legacy of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives long before they were referred to as such in our district. And I know that his connection to and his love for FPS will guide his leadership in this new very important role. So we want to say congratulations and welcome Mr. Smith.
Thank you to the Board of Education. Thank you so much for having me. Dr. Delgado, thank you for believing in me. You know, I've said this 3 times. I've been at this podium, and I hope to say it a few more. But I'm going to say it again tonight, that you must seize the opportunity of a lifetime in the lifetime of the opportunity. And I want to thank some people here tonight, or that may be on their way, for creating this opportunity for me, for building me up into who I am standing before you today. My wife, I don't know if she has made it, she was running like crazy. Oh, she's pulling in right now. I just seen a white Volvo pull in, but she's picking up our son and our pandemic baby, Graylin, and they'll be in.
Do you want us to do something else for?
No, we're good. But she's been, and my family has been really supportive during this time. You know, there was a time where I was studying for all of this, and my daughter said to my wife, "Why is Daddy studying so much? What is this? He's up in the morning, he's late at night, he's not really sleeping, he's on the patio, he's in the office." And my wife said to her that when you care about something enough, when you're supporting, and the job is to make sure that other people are well off or better off, then you give your all to it. And so my kids have been a wonderful support for me, and I hope that I'm a living example of what it is to chase your dreams and to be relentless after your dreams. To my mother and father, John and Leola Smith, who raised all 9 of us at one time, and has done an extraordinary job. I thank you for your continued support. I've got my Lanigan family here. I've got many from representing our PTA. That's all right, I already put you on the spot, it's all good. This is my wife and my son and Graylin and my other daughter, Grace, here. Thank you so much. But to my Lanigan family who've embraced this vision, this young administrator coming in with hopes and dreams and actualizing those things for the betterment of our community, our school community, and our connecting communities. I'm just extremely grateful for you, the FPS staff that I'm looking around and saying thank you so much for your, again, for your support, for those moments that we've had to grow one another. So thank you so much. And again, as you said, Dr. Delgado, this is a duty of service. And I look forward to pouring myself out as the next director of diversity, equity, inclusion for the betterment of Farmington Public Schools. Thank you so much.
If I might, through the chair, Dr. Lau, I would just like to congratulate Mr. Smith. I am extremely excited for him, and I am very excited for us. I've seen firsthand Mr. Smith's passion for this district, even beyond just his own personal school. I watched him process data, he and his team, And that translated to the tremendous progress we saw in your school and in your students and for our district. So I have no doubt with your background and your successes, I'm confident that you'll be able to do the same thing for the rest of this district. Thank you for all that you do to ensure that all of our students are learning and growing and grow to their full potential. Thank you and congratulations.
This is amazing. We have two candidates that came before us tonight that are now people that are very well needed in this community. I don't know our HR guy, but I'm looking forward to meeting him. He seems like he's going to be a really good fit in Farmington's family. And to Mr. Smith, not only does Mr. Smith loves his Lanigan family, but this man loves his personal family. This man is involved with his family, with his wife and his children. And when you have a man that does that with the integrity and grace that he has, that boils over into the community and the schools. Your family, your Lanigan family is going to miss you, but you're still here, and you're still working for them, and you're working with them. We want to welcome both of you and congratulate you, even more, Mr. Smith, to the Farmington family. You know, I always say Farmington's finest, and that's what both of you are. And I'm looking forward to working with you as well, and even with you more. Welcome aboard, both of you, and this is great stuff. And Mrs. Smith, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you to the little Smiths. So I appreciate everything that you all have done and what you are going to do.
I just wanted to say, again, congratulations to you, Mr. Smith, for this position. My connection with you is a little bit more personal. When my new family first began to be a part of Farmington, and we were experiencing some difficulties with my son, your level-headedness, your compassion, and your fair-mindedness was very impactful for us to be able to get through that situation and circumstance in a positive way. And I think those same characteristics and all the others you brought and grown into over this time will set you up for nothing but success for this position, which means Farmington is going to be nothing but successful. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you both and welcome again.
And next up, in our district updates, we have one more district update. We have an update from our 2020 bond, and I think we have a few different people who are going to be joining us at the podium. So, as Mrs. Kaminsky is setting it up, and we understand that some of you may not want to watch another few hours of the board meeting, but you can go home and you can watch it online if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening.
Take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Delgado, and good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to come before you guys and present our what's been every 3 months or so quarterly dashboard, just kind of a very high-level snapshot of what's going on with the bond that you guys and the voters have approved. We were last here in June. I think it was Mr. Wills that was presenting on our behalf, but we're keeping the same format, just a little bit updated information for all of you. I'll start with really kind of our breakdown of the budget. This is really a static, and it's really just to remind everybody of what we're doing. It's a lot of construction, but there's more to it. There's furniture, there's buses, there's lots of technology, there's lots of great things happening over the next several years. As far as our financials, just made a few notes. Excuse me. So again, this was a $98 million bond. Our commitments of 37.4 now. which is up about 1.6 million from June, and most of that has been technology related. We haven't awarded too much in terms of construction over the summer. We spent a lot of time doing the construction. Our actual approvals are now at 21.3 million. That's up about 7.5 million, and that's, again, attributed mostly to the work that was completed over the summer. Our reserve is 1.9 million. That is made up of some bid savings to date, as well as owner contingency, which is a great place to be. And again, we're projected to be at $98 million at the end of the bond. As you can see, that kind of translate, we're roughly half committed in terms of our construction budget. We're still kind of at the very beginning here with our furniture. We've purchased the second round of buses. And as you can see, we're starting to spend some of the technology money in the 2020 bond as all of the remaining 2018 proceeds allocated to technology are starting to become final. Our current projects, we refer to them as bid packages, but bid packs 3, 4, 5, and 6. Bid pack 3 is, of course, Farmington High School. And again, these were predominantly supposed to be summer projects, but as you guys may have heard, we've experienced a few issues with material lead times, predominantly mechanical and emergency generator type items. So as you can see for bid packs 3, 4, and 5, I've kind of brought the blue dots out to next summer. We're still getting some of that equipment in and trying to find the opportune time to install it. And McCarthy and Smith and members of the project team are currently working on obtaining that as a first goal, get the material, and then find out how you can install it. And if we can do it during a break, we're certainly looking for those opportunities. We're not sitting back and waiting till next summer, but that may be the answer for some of these things. For example, at Farmington High School, we're doing some renovations to the gym, and it's not as simple as replacing the unit tomorrow and firing it back up the next day and having the gym available. So we will continue to monitor that, but that's why some of those projects are out. But we had a very successful summer, completing the bulk of the work at those schools, ready and available for the start of school. Big thanks to the McCarthy and Smith team for all their hard work, getting us to that point. And then, of course, our district-wide signage, which is very visible as you drive through the community. A nice sign that's unified, really, the look of the district. Those are all up and running, restored, and I think we're still learning a little bit about them, but again, they're all up and running and being used, and I drive by a lot of them. It's a very positive sign, I think, driving through the district. What are we up to? Well, we're going to start this tonight, but we've got a lot of work. We've got next summer's work in process, and that's, years ago, this process would have started months from now. But as we continue forward, as material lead times become longer and longer, as the amount of competition here in southeast Michigan grows, we need to get in front of it. And the team here has kind of been really cranking behind the scenes, trying to get through all the design work, getting a good set of documents available so that we can bid out early, right after school starts. In fact, our first bid pack, which we'll present after this, was actually bid out almost at the end of summer. So it's kind of a new philosophy, but it's really worked. It's been successful in terms of our bidder turnout. It's been successful in getting good contractors to look at the work. So that our first project actually is all the way at the bottom. I'm sorry. It's here, Vision's relocation to Farmington Community School. So we're going to present that award here later tonight, but we'll be looking to start that at the end of this year and really do the bulk of the work the first half of next year so that we're ready for the start of the 2023-2024 school year. Coming up next, and we're currently working through our bids and bid results from bid package number 7, which is the work here at MEC, as well as the Farmington STEAM Academy. And we're planning to bring that to the October 11th board meeting for your review. And we'll schedule a time to review that with the committee as well prior to. Behind that is North Farmington High School and the renovations and improvements there. That's a project that's actually currently out for bids. And then finally, bid pack number 9, which is our work at Beachview and Kenbrook Elementaries. Not far behind. So just kind of a flurry of bidding activity right now, trying to get ourselves set up for next year and working through all of that. That really concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Wee?
Sure. Is there, this is great, and I continue to appreciate how much we've been able to manage the process with you guys' help and save money, especially earlier on, which helps us now.
Mhm.
Is there a breakdown so that we can see by location where we ended up and where the savings were so that we can potentially reinvest somewhere else if possible?
Yeah, so right now this is actually, in this economy, this is a real tribute to the administration of the district and everybody that's been involved in the decision-making. We're sitting at about a $400,000 or $500,000 bid savings. That's significant, and combined with the owner contingency, we're right at about 1.9. Some bid packs have been a little over, some have been a little bit under. I think mostly we've been pretty good, with the exception of Farmington High. It's a lot bigger school. There's some needs there. And we continue to be challenged by the economy. So while we haven't bid all the work out, we just took bids on bid package number 7. Those were very favorable. We still have work to come at bid packs number 8 and number 9, and those are bid packs we've been trending a little bit over budget on. So we've put some alternates in the bids to try to control that outcome a little bit. But to answer your question, yes, we could probably go back to all the different awards to date and just kind of share and summarize the over-under, if you will.
Thank you.
Yep, we'll get that to the district.
Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Smith.
I just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done and what you put into this. During these times, it's difficult to get the work that is needed. With, even in your own homes when you're trying to get things done, it's hard to get the equipment and the supplies. So I really appreciate it, and it looks like you're on schedule. And thank you again for all that you've been doing.
Anything else? Thank you so very much for this thorough report.
Thank you.
And those are the end of our district updates.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Delgado.
You're welcome.
Okay. We will now move to board committee reports. Ms. Smith, will you please share the onboarding committee report?
I sure will. We had our meeting, let me look at the date here. We had our meeting September 12th. Thank you. Why do I feel like we're passing the wand here? Our meeting was held September 12th, 2022. We called it to order at 12:01. Everyone was present. What we discussed pretty much was on the onboarding committee, which our committee members are Ms. Heinrich and Mr. Rich, and they both brought a lot of informative things to the committee, because when I got elected on this board, I didn't have the opportunity to have that onboarding process until after. So the board committee members shared their onboarding experiences. And the purpose of this committee is to onboard new board members after they have been elected. So what that means is new members that get on, we don't want to blindside them to think that they're only just going to sit here every Tuesday or once a month or whatever. And we want them to know what it takes to be a school board member. So that was pretty much what we discussed and how we were going to have everything go. We also discussed the board candidate information session, which will be held on October 3rd at next month at MEC right here in this building. And it will be facilitated by Scott Morrell from MASB, which is Plant Moran. I mean, not Plant Moran. I'm looking out there and thinking of Plant Moran and McCarthy and Smith. But it'll be held by MASB, Michigan School Board Association. So to make it look like it's unbiased, we will have outsiders from Michigan School Board explain what the process is and how to go about the process of being a board member. So any candidate that wants to take place and be a part of this will be able to ask questions, and information will be given to them. They will know about the classes and how to be a certified board member. And that's the end of my report. And so we will have future items coming up, and any board member that has any questions or concerns, they can email me and I can get the information out to the committee, and we can take care of it from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Smith, for that report. Now, Ms. Heinrich, would you please share the Finance and Facilities Committee report? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the Finance and Facilities Committee met on Thursday, September 15th, and that was myself and Ms. Weems and Mr. Walker, along with a lot of other people. There's a lot going on the Finance Committee. So bid pack number 16, renovations to Farmington Community School, which is going to be the new Visions Unlimited recommendation, is going to be a discussion and an action item tonight. And I just have a lot of appreciation and respect for Scott Smith from Plant Moran Cressa and Aaron Phillips from McCarthy and Smith. They do such a thorough job in presenting the information, and we ask a lot of questions at these meetings, and so when their presentation comes tonight, it was the result of a lot of discussion and questions, and will share the information on that. The other thing is that we talked about was the Interchange property purchase recommendation, and that's going to be a discussion item tonight, and there was a lot of discussion on this. Basically, I don't want to, give any spoilers, but the district is being asked to approve $2.3 million in moving central office and transportation over into a new facility, a combined facility. And so there was a lot of dialogue. There were a lot of questions that were submitted, responses. We went over and we had an opportunity to look at the facility, and it generated a lot more questions and responses. And so I'm looking forward to the presentation tonight for that to share with the community. And that is just going to be a discussion item, and then at the next board meeting, then we'll ask for approval because it is such a big project. Future agenda items, it was just presented as far as the bond work. So the bid packs 7, 8, and 9 for the continuing work in our buildings are going to be on the agenda. And also we asked, because of all the summer bond work that was done, that we schedule some building tours so that the board members can go through and they can see the work that was done in the district, and we can report back to the community. And I think that is all until we get the presentations tonight from the discussion items.
Thank you, Ms. Heinrich. Moving on to discussion items. We have several today. The bid pack that Ms. Heinrich just mentioned, the interchange property purchase recommendation, and a textbook purchase recommendation. Dr. Delgado?
Sure, I can turn my microphone on. Welcome back to the podium, Mr. Scott Smith, as well as John Barth, our Facilities and Operations Director, as well as, it looks like, Aaron Phillips coming on up as well.
Okay, I'm not going to read this to you. There's on the board behind you. You can read it at your leisure. But good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Delgado. It's my pleasure to introduce this process, this decision to move Visions over to a new building for a number of reasons, primarily because they've outgrown this current building. We looked at it from a number of angles, and I'm here with Aaron Phillips from McCarthy and Smith and Scott Smith, who you know. But in a nutshell, basically the building that we currently reside in, which is gorgeous, Doreen loves it, it's beautiful, kids love it, it's really too small. We looked every which way from Sunday to try to renovate that building, make it bigger, build up, build out. There's really no way cost effectively to do that. At the same time, we have a building over on Shiawassee Road, which is being repaved right now, that is gorgeous. I mean, it doesn't look that great right now, but it's big. So it's approximately 12,000 square feet bigger, so it can accommodate the program that Doreen needs. So every effort went into the design of this building to make it the best that it can be with Brian Smilnak and this team. We think we've got a great idea, plan in place that Doreen has approved. So it's a great move for the district. I'm going to let Scott Smith and Aaron Phillips tell you more about it.
Thank you, John. I think John introduced it very well. So, and just for everybody to be clear, this is actually a renovation to the current Farmington Community School, where the Visions program is proposed to be relocated. We have been working with Doreen, Brian Smilnak with Wakely Associates, and his team have been working hand in hand, going through the ins and outs of the design, coming up with something that is both compatible with the budget that we've established for the project, as well as meets their current needs. We didn't want to shortchange those, or there really wasn't a point of doing this. So we think we found that happy medium. We started this process probably last year, and when we really started thinking, well, what about Farmington Community School? Would that be a good place to make this work? Because again, we were restricted by not only the size of the building, but by the size of the classrooms. They just weren't big enough. That was cited as an issue. The fact that Visions Unlimited is a year-round program also makes it a little bit tricky in terms of renovating or adding on. There's a whole nother set of logistics. So we have this space over here at Farmington Community School that allowed us to renovate not at our leisure. We have a schedule to uphold, but at a time where it's not going to impact the current operations of that program. Furthermore, we can do it in a time that's actually conducive to the district financially. Everybody wants to do their work in the summer in the schools because that's when it gets done, unless you're doing some non-disruptive things. Here we can actually start that process probably late this fall, and we can build throughout the calendar year, early next year, and we'll have this thing done next summer. So again, lots of good reasons to consider it, and so what we ultimately did is we conducted some designs, we conducted various levels of estimates, and we refined the design accordingly. We scaled back a little bit to find the right balance between program and budget. We established a $6.5 million budget. As you'll see later, we came in very close to that. Didn't allow us to do everything we wanted, but I think it does the important things in the program where Doreen felt very comfortable moving forward. So again, we've been working through design, working through the estimates, and we ultimately bid this project out in mid-August. So right as everybody's starting to ramp up and get other construction projects done for the school year, we put it out for bids. And you would think we wouldn't get any bidders, but we got a ton. It was very well supported. I won't go into the spoilers either. I'll let Aaron get into that. But what's important to note is, you know, the total recommendation of hard construction is about $6.8 million. And we're going to fund this a little bit out of the 2018 bond. We have about $4.6 million in proceeds that we're transferring in to accommodate a large portion of this cost. And a lot of that is really a tribute to Ms. Kaminsky on her job investing the district's proceeds. We probably had $2.9 million in earned interest from the last bond. So a big kick in, big thanks to her for investing wisely and allowing us to put that money towards this. The balance of funding, of course, would be from the 2020 bond. Without further ado, I'll turn over to Aaron Phillips from McCarthy and Smith to kind of go into some of the finer points of the bidding process and the details of the recommendation.
Thanks, Scott. Good evening, Dr. Delgado, Board of Education. Happy to be here and presenting again. I have the details. I have the fun stuff. So let's get into it. We bid the project. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to shift your attention to page 8 on this. This is the fun one. Zoom in on this a little bit. Oop. There we go. A lot of numbers here. We bid the project on September the 8th. Great bid coverage. We had 95 total bidders over 25 bid categories. So this is a large project. I always talk about the big funnel. We want the big funnel of bidders to capture market pricing. So you can see the bid range. We have a low and a high. About $5.5 million was the sum of low bids, and about $8.8 million the sum of high bids. So that equates to almost 4 bids per category, which is awesome. In this market, 2 is wonderful. We love to see 2 bidders. 4 were thrilled. So that's a great coverage there. So I did asterisk a couple of the contractors once we conducted thorough post-bid interviews with the apparent low. A couple were the second low bid, whether it be an estimating error and they need to withdraw their bid, or there were 2 inaccurate bids. They did not include sales tax on one and inaccurate bid of material only on the other. So we do those exactly for that reason. We conduct post-bid interviews to flush those inconsistencies out, mistakes out, because we certainly don't want to go under contract with someone who is going to not perform well or be behind the 8 ball as it is. So again, great bidder turnout. As Scott alluded to, the project team, we came up from the concept moving forward about a $6.5 million budget. The project came in at $6,871,344.47, which translates into about $370,000 over budget. In the grand scheme of things, it's a huge win for the district. Pretty spot on with the conceptual estimate, as Scott said, about a year ago. So a ton of hard work went into this thing. Mr. Barth really led a good, solid design effort and the construction effort and estimating, and we're very pleased to present this tonight. So we can certainly answer any questions that you may have.
Ms. Smith?
Well, hello, gentlemen. Oh, that's right, this is not working.
Just
couple of questions. First, thank you, John. Thank you. First, thank you both, well, all 3 of you, for all of what you're doing. But special ed is my passion. So, are you expanding doors for the wheelchairs where it be accessible? Hold on, I got a couple of more. Are you having wheelchair accessibility for the students that could get in and out? Because our school, that school is for the community. That's a school that is open all year round because that's our SXI, SMI students. And I used to work in that building, and I used to work at that school as well. So is it going to be accessible for those students to be able to enter and leave? Will we have enough equipment for if the nurses have to have some work done or a space in there for them as well? So that's it.
I can probably answer that without the microphone. All good questions. One of the first things Mr. Barth asked me, or told me, when we first started touring the building was we need removable mullions on all of these doors. And if you don't know what a removable mullion is, it's the separating piece between 2 twin doors that allow movement, mobility, etc. So it's one of the first things. So that's been integrated in the project. All of the door entrances, exits, ramps, etc. meet ADA compliance. All of them will be accessible areas and functionality as that. And that's really a testament to Wakely's persistence and understanding of the design of the special needs program.
Thank you so much for that.
Ms. Heinrich? Oh, did you have something you wanted? Okay, while you have that, sorry. And then we'll, yeah.
Click on the pass.
Those of us who are part of the Finance Committee, and I am part of the Finance Committee, had an opportunity to ask a lot of questions, and you guys came back to us with a lot of answers. One of the things that was really important to me was to understand, what was driving the move, and you guys have answered that. Also, where the funding was coming from, and you guys answered that, like where from bond proceeds, and so it sounds like a lot of it is coming from the savings and also the income that we've been able to generate in interest. I mentioned it earlier, I was really interested in understanding, because I was a member of the Building Site Utilization Committee from years ago that we affectionately called BSUC. But we wanted to kind of understand what the allocations of bond funding were originally for schools. So I'm assuming there was an amount associated with Visions before that wasn't consumed that we're now using for this purpose. I'm seeing a shake and nod of the head, so that's good. Okay.
I can answer some of that, and I'll let Aaron take over, but we do look at that as a constant process, understanding how the bond dollars work. And you'll see that in a moment I do my presentation, but a lot of thought goes into all this as it's moving. So the money was allocated for Visions, you're correct. There was a dollar amount for Visions. However, we had to weigh that with what the Visions needs were. Could we use those dollars and build on that building? No, we would have needed a lot more. We probably would have needed 3 or 4 times what we had originally budgeted for Vision, so we knew that. So our goal then would become, what does Doreen need? What does the program need? How can we not jeopardize other bond projects and their dollars that are committed to those projects, yet come up with the money, and you'll see that in the next presentation. How do we rearrange things that is beneficial to the district into the program? So what we did and what we continue to do every time we look at the bond dollars, it's daily, right? It's really daily, is we see, and remember, part of this is dealing with an environment that costs are escalating still. So from 2019 to 2022, 20% increase in products across the board. So we have to work with that. We also have to work with whatever dollars already allocated bond projects are. We've already told North sort of what they're going to get from a bond scope, and we don't want to shortchange anybody in the future. So that's a constant moving piece. I think we did a good job this time because we knew there were dollars for visions, but we also knew there was money available. So we were able to bring dollars, and I'll show you in a moment how that transferred. But in so doing, we didn't want to shortchange what Doreen needed, and that was the most important piece.
Yeah, I think to that point, it's a massaging of the bond dollars. You know, as we present the interchange property, that creates a lot of different scenarios. You know, there's money that doesn't have to be spent on certain buildings. You know, if in that situation. So I think in this case, you know, there are monies presumably that we wouldn't spend. We've got the kick in from the old bond. You know, that'll go into, you know, call it the owner's contingency, and that will be used to fund this project, which will leave a positive balance higher than it is currently to do that. And we still have money, you know, at other buildings that we haven't touched yet in the bond too that, you know, we'll continue to talk about.
So in short, we had funding associated with Visions. We didn't use all of that, which was one of our questions in the Finance Committee. So we didn't spend money on Visions. It's not as if we were, you know, renovated that building and now we're moving from it and renovating another. That was a core question that we had, and so you guys answered that. I think that answers my questions on this, and I'll take it down to Mrs. Heinrich.
Yes, thank you. And I'm just listening to, one of the things I think is fortunate and thankful that the district had foresight. I just remember, you know, I've lived in the district since 1975, and I remember when this was 10 Mile Elementary School, and my kids went to Flanders Elementary School, which is no longer there because they tore it down and they built houses. And so I'm sitting here listening to the presentation, and it's fortunate that Visions needed more space, and we have a building in the district that we can, you know, renovate and do that. So that was thank you to the people before me in the district for having that foresight in, you know, looking forward. One of the things that we talked about at the meeting and we asked about was the adaptive playground outside and the equipment and the plans for the outdoor space. So can you just share with the community what you shared with us at the community, at the committee meeting when we asked about that?
Yeah, I can answer that. From the start of this process, Doreen was working hand in hand with Brian. They've had numerous meetings, walkthroughs, whatnot, and the last thing Doreen gave to Brian was, the adaptive playground is fine where it's at right now because what they needed was to build a playground up for the younger clientele they had. So a lot of design work went into the site work at the New Visions, I'm calling it. But again, that adaptive playground stays where it's at. We're not going to do anything. We're not tearing things apart. Obviously, we want to leave Visions sort of the way it is right now, but utilize it in a different manner. But that'll stay there, and Doreen's getting all new play equipment at the new building based on what she said her program needs right now. So that's the way it was left. And again, we sort of left the design and the development of this process up to Doreen and Brian, because it really wasn't ours to say what your program needs. It was really up to her. So from that standpoint, I think really we've done a great job just getting her what she needs. And with Aaron's help and Scott's help and the bond team, we came in relatively close to the budget we expected to come in this environment. So we're really pleased to push this forward. It really is, to me, it's sort of a no-brainer because it serves a perfect purpose for the district. And the Visions program can continue to grow. It's not going to outgrow the building. The area around FCS right now is we sort of let that building sort of sit there and not do much with it, and now we're going to bring it to its glory again. So from our standpoint, it serves a number of purposes and makes the district better than we thought it could look so a few years ago.
Any other questions or comments? What you do, I can teach kids how to read and how to do algebra, but this is way out of my league. And we all thank you for the close attention to detail, the creativity in your thinking and financing, and the collaboration that you are doing with the people at Visions to bring this project to fruition in the best possible way for our students. So thank you so very much for all your hard work. We really appreciate you. Okay. Let's see. This recommendation was presented and discussed at our last school board meeting, so we will be voting on this matter later in this meeting during action items. Okay. Next, we have the Interchange property purchase recommendation.
Yes, thank you, President Blau, and I can share a few comments as our team is getting in place to present to you.
Thank you, Dr. Delgado.
So we have an opportunity to bring before you a recommendation to purchase a property on Interchange Drive, which is on Halstead Road, just north of Grand River. My microphone works, so you can keep that. That will essentially get us off the hill. And so when I joined Farmington Public Schools, there were two main points that, as I went around in July and I heard from community members, there were two main things that kept coming up. One was our community needs to heal, and the second was you need to get off the hill. So we're working on both, and I think we're doing a great job. Mr. Barth and his team received a mandate, a kind of a charge from me is, I want you to try to explore getting off the hill. And what that means is we currently sit right above Shiawassee Hill, the famous sledding hill, and we have both our transportation department and our central office in a very antiquated building that really is essentially a three-story building that is chopped up. There's no real kind of connection and flow. We also have homes that are being built right in the adjacent area, butting up to about 100 diesel buses that start at 5 o'clock in the morning. So suffice it to say that over the last year or so, Mr. Barth and his team and our realtors have been searching for possible properties in Farmington or Farmington Hills to try to accomplish just the transportation move. And they've come upon this property that might serve us very well in right-sizing our district. We talked about being fortunate to have a building that we could renovate, that could move Visions to what we're envisioning as a permanent home for Visions, and really having the foresight to go from a current 20,000 square foot building at the current Visions to a 40,000 square foot building at the Farmington Community School, that program will not outgrow, that can be their home. And so what you'll see in all of these domino moves is that we're looking at permanent relocations to shrink our footprint in the community, to spend tax dollars wisely and in a fiscally responsible manner. And if eventually you approve the purchase of this, the idea would be to move our transportation hub over to this new property, as well as our central office, thus eliminating 2 buildings in our district and selling the remaining property, hopefully to single-family homes that might bring more children into our district. So the vision is broad, the vision is a 10,000-foot vision, and the vision involves multiple moves that responsibly reduce our footprint in the district. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Barth, and he can share with you our presentation along with Mrs. Kaminsky, and I'm sure there are some others that may step to the podium as well. Mr. Barth.
That was a great introduction. Thanks, Chris. And I'm going to go through basically a year-long process to do this, because at the beginning, we didn't know if it was possible. We just knew that Visions had to move, right? We're tackling that. But that led to a bigger discussion. Like Chris said, we've got buildings now. This home that's closest to transportation is literally 50 feet away. So that's going to create a number of issues this winter. I mean, we start buses at 4 a.m. and diesel fumes, noise, it's going to be tricky with our neighbors. We want to be good neighbors. So that started the conversation about a year ago, maybe 11 months ago. And so Chris had me look at, Dr. Delgado had me look at sort of where are we at right now, what can we do, is there anything out there that we could move to? We didn't have a clue. So I'm going to walk you through a little of the history. Chris already did some of that, but just to show you what we're dealing with right now. We had money originally available for both central office and transportation to renovate those buildings. But there wasn't enough money there, and I'll get into that next. Both buildings are showing their age, just like we all do. So there's issues with repairing what's there to make it functional. Like Chris mentioned, central office isn't functional right now because it's very chopped up. It's also difficult to repair. A lot of the equipment in there is outdated. We can't replace stuff. We can't get stuff replaced because of the environment right now. There's also the issue of Sorrows, Our Lady of Sorrows, which is twice a day, sometimes more. It's difficult to get buses in and out, let alone cars. So there's that issue, which is always a challenge for us, and we worry about how that's going to affect if somebody gets hit or something happens. It's a worry. So we sort of knew we had to do this because we really don't want to put our good dollars toward bad buildings. So this is a sort of few pictures of central office right now. There's no real inviting reception area. You guys have been there a number of times, so you know that you go in there and you don't know where to go. So that's a problem. Plus, if you look downstairs, it's basically a cavern. And so why put money toward a cavern? The laboratories all need to be done. New switchgear, new boiler. This is a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of money budget for this from day one. We're just going to do some repair work, and what does that do for us? Over transportation, we have issues with parking right now. You guys drive by there, you can see the buses all lined up. In the wintertime, it's a nightmare. So you can imagine trying to get buses out with 4 or 5 inches of snow and all the problems there. Plus, it needs a lot of work inside. So again, this was just sort of some background. This basically shows what was identified to be done in those buildings on a minimum scale back in 2019 when Plant Moran did their capital assessment. So projected cost is $3.8 million for central office, $1.9 million for transportation. In '22, those costs escalated because of the cost increase, and it's currently only budgeted for a portion of that increase. So right now, even to do what we wanted to do, it's going to cost us more. So why would we do that when we're basically just putting money toward old buildings? So with that said, we looked at what the future needs of the district are. We mentioned visions before, that's before you. We also have a problem in the district with district storage. So it's very hard to put anything anywhere. We've been using FCS for storage of excess furniture, supplies, everything that's imaginable, COVID stuff, just everything's there. So that was an issue. What do we do with that in the future? Also MEC, which is, other than this boardroom, which looks gorgeous, the rest of the building, and IT, the rest of the building is pretty antiquated. The mechanical units are failing. If you come here in the summertime, you might as well just bring a towel because it's very humid in here. You slip on the floors. It's no joke. And we wanted to do something for community support services. So we're trying to consider all these things as we looked at what we could do. We mentioned visions, and I mentioned this before, I won't stay on this, but it is much larger building, so we looked at, and we've done that part of it. This is part we put forward, which is moving visions over to FCS. And as mentioned before, our plan is to start abatement at Visions beginning of October. Construction begins in November. So you'll see a lot of activity happening over the winter. And then to finish in June of next year so they can occupy next summer so that Visions can move over. And it wasn't said before, but just so you know, a lot of the inside things that Visions requires in terms of apparatus, equipment, that kind of thing, is moving over. There's no expenditure. That's moving over to the new Visions. So that won't be an added cost. So right now, if you drive by there, which you can't drive by because they got the street torn up, but if you look in the parking lot behind it, there's 4 premier moving trailers that are behind the school that now house everything that was in storage in there. So the building is pretty much vacant right now. Well, it is vacant right now. And just so you know, it's very safe. The stuff is very safe. They're good at this. They back all the trailers up to each other, so there's no way to get into those trailers. So while we were deciding what to do and move things around, we got the items stored over to SES very securely, all the desks and things that we've accumulated. So I mentioned this building itself has been renovated, but our plan is, and it's being bid out, is we're going to put a new secure vestibule on the north side for community support services, a lobby, reception area. We're going to fix mechanical units, boiler, put new flooring and lighting in. It'll be a gorgeous building. It'll match the boardroom. So what does that do for us? Well, it gives us an opportunity to right-size, as Chris said, right-size the district. And that's been a lot of years in coming. So when we looked at this, the bond team looked at this, and it's been a year process. We were looking at how many of the what bond dollars have we allocated to schools, upcoming projects? What are the future needs? What's the condition of our non-instructional buildings, which we sort of know, and what made the most sense in terms of allocating future dollars? So these recommendations were given to Superintendent Delgado probably about 8 months ago or so, but basically what we sort of decided was we need to move transportation, definitely need to move transportation. They had started building the subdivision. We knew that was going to be an issue, But more than that, it's just, it doesn't really fit the needs of the district right now, and there's other possibilities out there. We also looked at, likely we'll need a new spot for central office because we can't throw this kind of money at central office. We can only do minimal repairs, and that does nothing for us. And then thirdly, we got to find a place for district storage, which I mentioned. So last December, we enlisted the help of Plant Moran Cressa, which is the real estate division of Plant Moran. They're very good at this kind of work, and we knew that. So December last year, we started looking at what's available out there. What we found out in the next 4 to 5 months was there's nothing out there in Farmington Hills. There was less than 12 properties available that would fit our needs for a transportation center. We need approximately 4 acres, maybe a little less for Aaron, because that's how much we have right now, roughly. And so that's what we were looking at, plus a building, if there's a building there. There's nothing out there. We even looked in Southfield. We looked in Livonia. We looked in Novi. There's nothing out there. So we only knew that we had to do something, and again, with Plant Moran Cressa helping us on the helm of this, we finally were successful. We'll get into that in a second. So as mentioned, we're looking for 4 acres or more. We also have done stuff to prep us for this, in that an example being the large tank over here, the new diesel, 20,000 gallon diesel tank, can be moved to any location that we move to. So that was part of that decision to put an above ground tank in. So May of this year, and we were very downhearted, there was a property that we became available, well, Plant Moran Cressa became available of, and again, they got their ear to the street here. They heard of a property over on Halstead Road. It's north of Grand River, south of 11 Mile. And I put on there, it's a half mile south and west of Hillside Elementary. So if you know where that's at, it's right by the golf course. So the property is only about 2.5 acres. It's smaller than what we need, but I'll talk about how that can be sort of accommodated into our plan. And what was appealing about this property, a number of things, is that it's bordered on the north by the Department of Public Works for Farmington Hills. So they're right next door. And the M5 freeway is behind it. So there's really nobody behind. There's no subdivisions planned. It's all industrial. And lately, what they've been working on is widening the road. They're putting in a 14-inch base, so they're building the road for their public works department. That helps our buses, obviously, and it's a great ad that we're not paying for. So there's a picture of the property itself. As you can see, M5 on the left side of what I'm looking at here, and the DPW is just to the north on the top of the screen, and the golf course beyond that. So this property, like I say, it's very conducive, and I'll show you what the building looks like both inside and outside. I sort of fell in love with it the first time I saw it, only because I knew its potential. When I got into it, I really saw its potential. So this is the outside of the building, and again, there's nobody there right now, and anybody that wants to go by there, community members or whatever, can certainly drive by and drive in the lot and see what it looks like. Not much to look at, but it's to me, it's gorgeous. And this is the inside of the building. The warehouse, which would become the garage space, is 7,000 square feet. The building was built in 1980, so it's not that old, and we're doing our due diligence items right now, looking at the HVAC and the roof, and everything checks out perfectly right now. So as you'll hear, our recommendation is to proceed, obviously, but this is the warehouse, big enough to fit. We estimate it can fit about 8 buses. If we purchase, we'd be adding 2 more high bays. There's a loading dock in there for deliveries, which is nice for the wintertime. This is the front office space, we'll call it, 8,000 square feet, it's big. The furniture that you see is very high-end furniture. There's cubicles, conference tables, desks, TVs, that all stays. We negotiate that into the possible purchase. This is the proposed north bus loop that I drew up, and Wakely has this, but basically it brings the buses in north of the building by the DPW. They slide in there to the north. There's the fuel depot there, the new tank that will be relocated there, and then they can drive back out on the south side. So it's very workable. There's about 60 parking spaces there, so there's enough for both central office staff and bus drivers that would be there. And I'll get into that because all the bus drivers won't be there. Our plan is only to have about 12 buses there at any time, those that are being worked on, special needs buses. The rest of the buses will be satellited from Warner and Powers. They'll be housed there. There's a number of reasons to do that too. So this is the building itself, the floor plan. I know it's not much to look at, but the next screen sort of shows how it can be divided up to a central office space and a bus garage, so a shared space, as Chris mentioned. It's very conducive to both central office and a bus garage. So I mentioned before that a lot of districts are doing what we're thinking of doing, which is to to place buses where they're sort of needed, south and north of the district. What that does is cuts down on routes and reduces fuel costs. So it's actually a very positive thing to do this as opposed to one bus depot. But again, we'll have buses go in and out of that, but it won't be like constant buses in and out of that location. The $2.3 million that we tentatively sort of agreed to for the board to consider is comparable per square foot to the same area. So all those buildings here on the Interchange Drive are very similar in price based on square footage. The furniture was valued at about $150,000. We negotiated that to be included with the purchase, so that's a benefit which we figured out would drop that $2.3 million. It's also a turnkey, so we already had IT look at this in terms of running network to that. It's working, it's perfect for that. It's, like I say, it's basically turnkey move in. And he allows us to get off the hill, which is one of the main reasons why we looked at this initially. So the cost of both purchase and renovate the property is $4.3 million. As mentioned before, if we were to renovate transportation and central office, $6.8 million. That's a minimal cost for those two buildings. So what this also allows us to do, if we go ahead and purchase this, is to move MEC staff out of this building and into that building in a matter of a week. We've already figured out, got the movers ready if needed. But basically they can move over while this building's being renovated. That's a plus. So it also provides storage for those items that are currently trailered over at FCS while we work on the bus garage, which is a bit down the road. I mean, that doesn't have to happen right away. Soon, but not right away. Also, the science warehouse that's currently a central office could also move to the garage. It's big enough to house that and to put our storage items in there. And ultimately, the mailroom could move over to that because it's got the loading dock and perfect for wintertime and that kind of thing. So one of the things we had to consider too was district signage. So we knew this was probably going to go forward at some point, somehow, so the new digital signage can be moved. So the central office sign can go over to Interchange. The transportation sign can go over there as well, or wherever we decide to put that one. That one's not digital, so that was a plus. And the tank can go over as well, the new tank. So as mentioned before, and I won't go over these all in depth, but basically there's some cost savings with buses, rerouting buses. We don't have to spend on old buildings, which could be sold down the road. That whole property is worth some money. And then we can use old visions in the future for virtual school, for district storage, for whatever the need comes up. And of course, again, we get off the hill. And I'm going to turn the last part over to Jennifer to talk about how this is funded.
Thank you, John. So how will we fund this $2.3 million? So we do have a capital projects fund. It's called the Maintenance Bus Purchase Capital Projects Fund, which we are asking for approval to use to purchase this property. So several years back, when we were looking at trying to get off the hill, we modified the language with board approval to allow for property purchases out of that fund as well as funding capital projects as well as the bus purchases. So it is an allowable expense out of that fund. One thing to note is, you know, with our ballot language that we bring to the voters for the bonds when they're approving them, you know, they're specific. So there are certain things that we can't do with bond dollars. Just some big things. We can't construct brand new buildings. It's not in the ballot language. We can't purchase land. So there are certain things that are prohibited. But we can renovate an existing building using those bond dollars. So as John mentioned, we would be using $2 million of bond dollars to do the renovations that are needed for the bus garage. And then we're asking for, you know, $2.3 million, 2.4 with, you know, some additional closing costs to be used from this fund. So we have been setting aside dollars from the general fund for the last, I believe it's been 4 or 5 years. So there's about $2.7 million in that fund. And you may ask, well, that only leaves us with $300,000. You know, how are we going to replenish that fund? So we are closing on a cell tower agreement coming up next week, and that will receive approximately $1.1 million, which we intend to put into that fund to, you know, put proceeds back in. Any dollars that we would receive from the sale of this property, central office and transportation, we intend to put into that fund to, build it back up. So again, anytime we receive one-time funds, we're trying to be very intentional about allocating those for one-time purchases or capital needs in the future. Is that it? Questions? All right.
Ms. Heinrich, and then Ms. Weems.
You can go first.
Oh, the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
I just had a couple of questions. You alluded, one of the things is we asked about sale of property, and you indicated just maybe share, you had a realtor on the call, and you don't want to make any projections until they have a chance to do things, but will that information be available before the next board meeting when we have to vote on this?
I spoke with Tony Sorty from Plant Land Crescent today, and just a few hours ago, and I actually ran the property gateways for this property. We have two properties here, basically. We have 32,500 and 3510. 510 is a little sliver down at the bottom of the slide. That being said, it's about 16 acres that we own, minus 2.5 for MEC. So MEC, we're not off the table, right? We're not getting into that. But that leaves us with the rest of it. Now, the city has made the comment that they'd like to keep the sledding hill. The sledding hill is 7 acres. At the same time, what do you do with a sloped hill like that to sell it to somebody? It may be worth something to the city, but to somebody else, you can't do much with it. But in talking to Tony today, he said because they built the subdivision next door, and what he told me was, if those houses are 400,000 plus, and you put 4 to an acre, your property here becomes much more valuable than just the 100,000, 150,000 that sort of comps in this area. So it's hard to tell right now what the perfect value is. We do have some cleanup to do with transportation if we do sell this. And then maybe you sell central office property to somebody that's got business. I mean, I don't know. It's very hard to say right now. If I were to ballpark it, at least $1.5 to $2 million. But it's very hard to tell right now because of this property that just developed.
Well, and that was the point, that we didn't really want them to make predictions until they had the information, but just complimenting them on holding that, and just the question is, do we hope to have that information before the next meeting?
He's working on that. He's got his people for that. He's got people looking at comps. The difficulty is, this is all very residential, right?
Okay.
But it's very desirable. It's a middle farm that I think everybody's going to want it. And what he said is they'll probably get a bigger farm.
So it'll be valuable, and it'll go back into the thing, and we really don't want them to make up figures just to please us. All right, and I was just reading through this contract, and I'm sure that your lawyers read through it, and but it just, and you alluded to the inspection period, and so that will all be completed before we approve the sale of that. Were there any environmental problems on the site?
Yeah, so the way that works is, when you do a purchase agreement, you basically get a certain amount of time to do what's called due diligence. So what that means, a phase 1 environmental survey of the property. You can also look at mechanical, roof, you do a title survey, an ALTA survey. The ALTA survey is in the works. That probably will not be back until October 6th, but that's okay. The reason you do due diligence right there in the contract is, if the board approved and the due diligence items fail, then you're back on contract. There's no fault to the district, basically get out. And normally the seller doesn't want that, because they want it sold when you approve it. Well, we didn't want that, obviously, it's too much money. So far, everything's fine. I mean, we don't see any difficulties. The one thing I'll add is, to the phase 1 is an Arch Environmental, or 2 doors down from the new property. They work with the district in a number of capacities. They're doing the site survey. They know what they're doing. They probably won't have that back at the end of October, just because that's a bigger piece to evaluate. They have to go the entire property, check the history. There were railroad tracks that ran along M59 and 5 in the past, and so they have to look at the whole history, whether there's ever been a spill. They do that. That's all predicted. But to answer your question is, that won't impede your decision, because those items go past and you can always back out. So just so you know, so none of the items that you mentioned, the due diligence, we expect to fail. I mean, this is just something part of the process. But it is written in the contract where if they fail, then we don't purchase it, even though you've agreed to it as a board to purchase it. But this is something that was gone back and forth with the attorneys, something the current owner wants to do. He said, we need to have sort of a commitment that you're going to purchase from the board. We said, okay, but we have to do our due diligence to make sure the property is fine and the survey's fine. So I'm just going to stand next to you, Claudia.
Probably just stand there.
You know, we just take technology for granted, and then when it doesn't work, it's like, oh my gosh, what did they do before they had all this technology? One of the things that impressed me on the tour, and just it wasn't really alluded to, was how the way the office space is laid out so that all your departments can be consolidated in there. You know, Kelly Coffin and Margaret Henderson's team are located in different buildings, and they'll all be in the same building for collaboration. And so I was really impressed with that, and I just want the community to know, and maybe you can just share a little bit, or, you know, Dr. Delgado really explained well how that's really a benefit for the community and the district moving forward and how we do things.
So that was a surprise to us because, again, we didn't expect to find this property. We were looking for a bus garage, right? And so when we were in the bus garage portion of the building, when we first went there, it's great. Oh, this will work perfect. And then they opened the door to the office. And that just like opened our eyes because the way it's laid out, you can see in the floor plan, basically the way it's laid out is there's offices all along, windowed offices, all the way around the outside, and they got cubicles on the inside. The company that was there before was Haval. They made electric trucks. They moved back to Los Angeles, Atlanta. They're out of South Korea, I think. But anyway, they moved out. They left a lot behind, but they also set it up to be very team-oriented so that, you know, that groups of people could meet. There's little, they call them huddle rooms there. There's little placards on the wall that say huddle room 1 and huddle room 2. But regardless, the building's laid out per Chris's sort of idea that everybody is there to collaborate when needed. The teams are nearby each other. Even the cubicled areas are right by the person that sort of leads them. So we couldn't believe, I don't know how we fell into this, quite honestly, but we did. So my recommendation is really strong to consider this because, quite honestly, we won't probably get this opportunity again anytime soon because property just becomes more and more, less and less available in Farmington.
And I can just add, there's an efficiency of scale when you have proximity to each other, but it also enhances the team building, the relationships that you build, and the efficiency in really people understanding that they work together, that we are interdependent as we serve students and their families. And so this really unique opportunity to bring our entire cabinet as well as many of our directors together to physically work in the same property room, property area, to have conference rooms for collaboration, for visioning for the district. It's really a unique opportunity that we were very interested in.
I don't know that people in the community were aware that we have so many of our key central office people working in different buildings because we just don't have the space at central office right now.
That is correct.
And in moving toward something of permanence, as we were speaking earlier about the visions move, this would give us the kind of space to move into the kind of operation, operating together in the teams and with the collaboration that we really have been looking for.
And similar to the conversation about the old visions moving to the former Farmington Community School, we envision this as a permanent move. Our central office, our transportation hub will not be able to outgrow this building, but it has the unique opportunity to bring all of us together. We currently have members of our central office and our leadership team here in this building in a few cubicles, over at some of the middle schools, an office over here, an office over there. And so this really helps bring us together as we continue to have our true north with our mission and our vision of the school district.
I'm sorry, Ms. Weeks, go ahead.
Thank you. So a few things. I'm not going to repeat everything that I've just heard. I will say that we've considered moving for a long time, and for as long as I've been on the board, back from the, building site utilization days. So I'm really surprised and pleased that you found this building, because it feels like we had been looking for, at least half a decade. So I appreciate all of the ability to consolidate, and mostly to address the right sizing of the district that we said we wanted to do, several years ago. So moving from 2 buildings and consolidating into 1 sounds great. There were a lot of questions that we had about, the funding. I'm glad that you were able to demonstrate to us that the purchase of this building would actually be less than the renovation of 2 different spaces. So that helps me a bit. I am still interested in understanding whether, and I think we all were, what the net costs were, but you walked us through a little bit of that today. So what have we spent? Another key piece, though, was what have we spent already or invested in these buildings? What is the cost to move? What would be the cost of the building, and what would be the cost of the renovation? So I'm assuming those last 3 pieces are encompassed in that $4.3 million that you share with us. But in comparison, we'd be spending $6 million if we wanted to renovate these 2 spaces, so that's helpful. So I can get to see how this could be either net neutral or net positive from a financial perspective to the district. The other positive thing is that we would be vacating sort of prime real estate here. I'm not sure that a school district property needs to be in the downtown Farmington area. There's a great opportunity for Farmington to, build here and to attract families, which is what we would want. So that seems like a win-win to me. Thank you.
I appreciate what you've done and the work that you did to look into this building. I am very highly impressed. And I don't impress easy. But presentation is everything. We have families coming into this building, and it's dreary. You've got boxes in here. I mean, I've seen UPS offices and post offices that looks better than this building here. To allow families to come in, knowing that they're trying to enroll their students here, we need something better. If we are going to be a premier district with high-quality educators and staff, we need to show that our community, that we are serious about what we do for them and for these students. If your staff is uncomfortable and can't perform in a good building, they won't be able to perform for our students and our community. To walk into this building now and see what I'm seeing, I'm not impressed with what we have here. I haven't been impressed for years. I guess when I lost the respect for how we have this building is when we had Jennifer Kaminsky a few years ago in the ladies' room beating the toilet with a hammer because she couldn't, we got some issues. And there's things that we need to fix. And do we fix them or do we move on? So at the end of the day, I think this is a good idea. This is something that we need to do. And it's time. And not only for us, but for these parents and these people that are buying these homes. I wouldn't buy no house and I got a bus at 4 o'clock in the morning, shining lights and the smell of diesel fuel. So thank you so much for everything and the hard work that you have put into this. Thank you.
I just want to make sure that we lift up, and Dr. Delgado, correct me if I'm wrong, but as a part of this wonderful domino effect, that this spot here becomes that one-stop shop for community services. Could you take a moment and kind of lift up that a little bit more for our community, please?
I would love to. So this is a broad vision. This is a district-wide vision for permanent moves. And this building, this beautiful boardroom that we're sitting in right now is part of the 10-mile Maxfield Education Center. So the idea, the vision for this property, which we would keep right here on 10 Mile, is that this would be your one-stop shop, central hub for all of our families. So you could enroll. We're moving to centralized enrollment that will be mostly electronic, but for those appointments that you need for follow-up and for assistance, you can come to the 10 Mile Building, MEC. We need to renovate essentially the hallways up to the IT department. We'll have a secure entry point is the vision. You can come if you need assistance with English language learner help. Our ELL department is housed here, and you can immediately have translators helping parents go through forms and to enroll multiple children. If you have a child with an IEP who needs an additional sit-down with a supervisor, our special education department is housed here. If you're a family that might need some support in a possible homeless situation or signing of affidavits or residential support, our homeless coordinator, our homeless department, our community support services department is here. And so you can envision being a family with 3 or 4 children. You come here and you can get all of the support that you need right here in the center of our district on 10 Mile. So this building, the idea is we would move the folks, the good folks in this building, over to the Interchange property while they renovate here for the next 6 months or so to the balance of the school year, and then move them back into this beautiful building that would be a permanent fixture in the Farmington Public School District. We would sell everything south of here in a very attractive market. Again, to Ms. Heinrich's point, we're not going to guess at any numbers. We're running the comps, but this is a very attractive, large parcel of land. I heard 16 acres minus the sledding hill. So we believe we'll have very lucrative offers, maybe a bidding war for this very attractive property, and then move the other domino effects of Visions to the new Visions, and then the central office and transportation over to this Interchange property. And those would be permanent fixes with our Maxfield Education Center being the hub of our central enrollment for our families. You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much once again, both of you. If there are no other further comments or questions, it's my understanding that this matter will come back to us as an action item at our next school board meeting.
That's correct.
Okay. And finally, we have a textbook purchase recommendation.
And I believe I see Ms. Margaret Hendrickson, our wonderful Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, who's going to present to you some recommendations for textbook purchases. And I believe she has some folks with her as well.
Awesome.
Good evening, Dr. Delgado and Board of Education. I do have beside me Ms. Nyasha Boyd. She is our Career and Innovation Coordinator and came to us new last year, so this is her second year. You have seen her before, as well as the community that is watching. So periodically, Instructional Services will bring forth to the Board of Education textbooks that we would recommend for adoption. So all of our textbook adoption processes will be originating through teacher work groups, teacher conversations around an ideal of what we would like. We create rubrics, and then we backwards design from there the types of texts that we'll need. So periodically, now that we're post-COVID, this is kind of exciting to be able to come to the board and do a new textbook adoption, because we've not done that yet in my time here during COVID or even last year. So we have 3 textbooks coming before you today. 2 are CTE textbooks. One is for business administration and marketing, and one is for automotive, specifically small machines. And then also a text for our IB, International Baccalaureate Spanish course as well. The first one will be business administration and management, which we affectionately call BAMO. So you'll see those words used interchangeably. And Nyasha is going to help take us through that one, and then I'll add some items as needed.
Good evening to all of our board members, Dr. Delgado, and to all of us who are hanging in there in the boardroom tonight. I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to represent some of our programs, specifically CTE tonight, and help to explain why this textbook proposal is very important to our groups. BAMO, as we have a lot of acronyms in the CTE world, but does stand for basically our business and administration students. Basically, this course that they're going to be doing is a project-based course. There are a lot of principles of business that are organized into this textbook adoption. We're actually going to be doing what is the 12th edition of this book, and so it is a book that we are somewhat familiar with. It has both a text copy and also a digital copy for students. But again, to the side, it tells you what students will be able to accomplish as a result of this textbook adoption. One of the things I want to lift up in the box is the demonstration of strategic decision-making, problem-solving, leadership, social responsibility, and other essential management functions necessary for an ever-changing global economy. When I was last before you, we talked a lot about the importance of our students being future-ready, and this is one way that we can continue to make sure that they are receiving the educational support using textbooks that are also being approved by their advisory committees to suggest that this is a great way forward, for our students to learn and grow and be exposed to real-world opportunities and scenarios. Some people may wonder, well, why do you need a new textbook? Maybe the old textbook is just fine. First of all, CTE has to be in compliance, and every 6 years we do need to purchase new equipment, including new textbooks to maintain compliance standards. And so this new textbook will be used across all 3 of our high school buildings, both Central High School, Farmington, and North Farmington. We really want to help to build capacity as students move through the program to actually achieve completer level within the program. And so we know that this will be a foundational textbook piece for the BAMO program.
Can you just touch on what an advisory board is?
Sure. All of our CTE programs have advisory boards made up of community members, people who are actually professionals in the industry. So most boards have anywhere between 6 to 10 people that help to help our staff, myself included, to kind of navigate, because remember, CTE teachers have stepped out of industry into the classroom, and so they have to continue to stay current with trends and things that are happening in their respective professions. And so that's what an advisory board consists of. You'll also see there's a picture of the book, Business Foundations, A Changing World. As I alluded to before, it is the 12th edition. The copyright is 2020. And there's some quotes that we wanted to lift up from reviews of this book. One of them is that the impact regularly about the global trade and relationships and career opportunities that technology specifically has on the business world. And so again, we're trying to make sure that we are staying current with trends and making sure our students have a high quality educational experience, not only with their teachers, but the textbooks that teachers are using.
Find in the board-facing PowerPoint, if you were to click on this image in that PowerPoint, you can get access to our demo of the textbook. We do have one on order. It has not arrived yet, so we will be sharing a copy of the textbook with you, the physical copy, but if you would like to review that text, we do have the demo digital copy. Oftentimes, we obviously will try to adopt the most recent edition. There is a 13th edition of this text, but there's a digital and online component that Ms. Boyd mentioned. And when they did their updates for the 13th edition, their online is really geared towards higher education. And this textbook edition with the online is much more appropriate for our students. And really shifts in copyrights are only about a 20% difference from one to the other. So this is still a very much supported and quality text for these groups of kids.
And as you can see on the screen, when you're seeing words like cryptocurrency and blockchain, artificial intelligence, again, this is keeping with the times. That was our first text, so Claudia? Questions?
Just a question about the digital option. Will the students choose whether they want a print copy of the book or an online version? And then for the online version, when we buy books, we have the books. So the licensing for the digital, is there a cost each year, or is it as long as we have the books?
I'll come back over here to you.
Good question. What we always try to do is ensure that there always is a digital component to a text if available. And so that it actually becomes more flexible for our student and teacher use with a lot of the interactive pieces that come with the online text. But I usually like to partner the hard copy with the digital text. In this case, you'll notice that the quote that was shared with you is we're purchasing class sets of the hard copy. Those come with 6-year online subscriptions. Then we're purchasing additional online subscriptions to make up the total enrollment size. So there'll be a hard copy in the classroom with a few extra, and then every student will have their own digital. We are finding students are less likely to take a hard copy text now if there's a digital copy. So we always make sure that we have some in class as well as that digital copy. And that is something, if we find that we need more students that need them, then we can always purchase more hard copies. But the original quote before us has a certain % hard copy with the 6-year digital license, and then another set that's just the digital license. That's not uncommon to do.
Okay, were there other questions?
Thank you. Quick question, leaning a little bit more towards the curriculum of the class. Love everything about what is being offered. Is there, and if not, could there be consideration for an entrepreneurial piece as a part of the project-based learning that would be taking place with this? Based on the other items I saw listed, I just see a phenomenal experience for the kids in that regard. And then a second question, just for my sake and being clear, in the event that we have more students enrolled in the class than books or licenses were allocated, we can bump that up, but that would be an additional cost at that time. Okay, thank you.
And I think to the point about the entrepreneurial piece, again, this book was selected by advisory board, teachers as well, across all 3 buildings. And I think that we can lift up the entrepreneurial piece without it changing the textbook adoption that we are proposing tonight.
It is very common for the board to approve a textbook. Obviously, there's an additional initial cost to the textbook that we fund through our adoption accounts, but we always have the funds at the building level, and they pay for any increased enrollment. And so that's a common process for us.
Right. Also, I'd like to add that as a classroom teacher, the textbook is only one of a number of resources that we utilize in the classroom. So it can be an important foundational piece, and it is only one of a number of pieces. So even if entrepreneurship isn't in this particular textbook in a significant way, that doesn't preclude a teacher from bringing in other resources and doing other projects that have to do with that piece.
We're still building literacy across all subject areas. Kids need to read, write, speak, and listening. So it's one tool within the classroom. Thanks for elevating that. So I'll give, if there's no other questions, I'll have Ms. Boyd share our automotive proposal.
Okay, we actually have this particular text in our hands. I also have the ability to show you how this particular book is connected specifically to the small engines that we actually house in our district. And so we wanted to make sure that the book that we're using aligns with the equipment that students are actually using. And so this is one of the reasons why we wanted to go with the Briggs & Stratton. But again, this course allows students to earn their ASE certification with maintenance and light repair, which is what MLR, again, another CTE an acronym, but it's in the area of electrical, engine performance, and brakes specifically. We want to make sure that, again, the students are actually working with a book that matches the wonderful resources they have in the classroom. And so again, why this textbook? I kind of raised a couple of these things, but one that I really wanted to lift is that the number 3 piece, the adoption supports full accreditation, which is a criteria for this course, and we will be getting a site visit later this year. Both of our teachers are now trained in the Briggs & Stratton processes, and this book supports the training that they've received as well. It's very important to make sure the text is aligned to the materials students are using in the classroom.
Thank you. So one of the questions that I had, I think, was addressed by Mr. Walker around the number of textbooks, because I noticed that there were varying numbers based on like sometimes 30, sometimes 40. So you guys, you always have an opportunity to buy more is the answer, so that's good. With respect to this text, I'm just flipping through it, was wondering if we're also giving some thought to like EV and where, you know, we're going. Definitely appreciate we're always going to still need folks who can do traditional automobiles. It just, my household is very up to speed on building cars from scratch the old way. But in the future, I'm wondering, you know, if we're going to start expanding the curriculum to include more of the electrical. I know there are certifications that are in demand right now for this, but was wondering about the future.
One of the things that's wonderful about CTE, and really all curriculum, all instruction, should always be ever changing. And a part of the CTE process is having those advisory boards so we understand the trends of the market. And that helps to drive as we think about purchases of equipment and materials, professional development for CTE teachers, any of those resources. And so those conversations will come up, and we have a structure that will be coming into place around CTE, meeting with them as a department and their individual programs to really start envisioning forward where we want to be so that we can take those steps, connect those dots as we get to that place. And those are the types of things that popped up, just like cryptocurrency, right?
And one other thing I want to make sure we're keeping in the forefront of our minds is that this class is for small engine machines, and so the distinction is a little different than, say, a full automotive engine. And so we're looking to grow, of course, the CTE programs to stay trendy with what's happening and also what students will face in their futures, which definitely will include probably electrical vehicles for sure. So thank you for that. Okay.
Ms. Heinrich? And then Ms. Fox?
This might be getting ahead of it, but in the proposal you had textbooks and then also workbooks. And so when you talk about workbooks, are the workbooks something that the students write in and are disposable, and will they have to be replaced each year? And is that taken into account in the proposal?
That's a great question.
As in any textbook adoption, we will always keep track of what the first year cost is and the recurring costs. So often there are consumables that'll get caught in the upfront cost, and then we build that into the budget moving forward. So for CTE, for example, for the auto and the BAMO, we use our CTE added cost dollars to help purchase these, and we keep those consumables in the market. Just like in EMT, we have consumable fake blood, we have consumable items, so we just build that into the budget.
Ms. Fox, did you have a question? Did you have your hand up? Oh, okay. I promised to let go of this book in a minute and that you guys have a look. I am really impressed. In the very first chapter, here's the Newcomen steam engine. So it's not just, well, how do I fix engine? It's a full understanding of the history of the development and evolution of engines. I mean, this is incredible. This is really, really detailed. So you've got some history here, and then we also have potential energy and kinetic energy, and we've got formulas, and we've got chemistry, and so this is really a hefty, deep
And thank you for bringing that up, because a lot of times when people think about CTE, they're not thinking that this is credits for math and credits for science. And so some of this cross-credit that we talked about when I was last at the podium is really important to think about. Also, this book supports MLR 1, A and B, and MLR 2, A and B. So students have a chance to really go in depth with this particular book for several semesters. So yes.
Fantastic. So this fits beautifully with one of our board goals around exploring innovation and wanting to raise the level of the CTE path to the level of a college path, rather than how it often has been viewed in the past as lesser than. We want to raise the level of rigor and depth, which is evident just in the first few pages of this text, as well as creating opportunities, more and more CTE opportunities for our students so that they can explore career pathways during high school. That doesn't necessarily mean that a CTE student who graduates with some of these CTE certifications won't also go on to college either after high school or later in life. We want to be able to provide as a district more of these different kinds of options and opportunities for career exploration during students' middle and high school years. And as I mentioned earlier, under our board goal number 2 of exploring innovation, we as a board want to work with our legislative committee to talk with our Michigan State Board of Ed representatives and legislators, both locally and statewide, around can a course like this count toward a math and or a science credit, so that students enrolled in these kinds of rigorous CTE courses can also get credit toward their official high school diploma. Ms. Heinrich and then Mr. Walker.
I'm just circling back after looking at the book. You said that you selected this book because you have these engines that the students, so you actually have the physical thing, so the students aren't just looking at the pictures in the book, they actually have the engines, and so it aligns with the equipment that we have. Yeah. So that kind of, when I saw the book, I was like, oh, so they have the real thing in addition to the picture. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
And I'd just like to have us lift up for a moment the data, last time I checked, surrounding the fact that students who complete CTE programs tend to go on to post-secondary, and they're completers of post-secondary. I'm still working on learning about the correlation between the two, but it's just the simple fact that they finish one, they move on to another, and they finish that as well. And the data also suggests that those who don't, there's a higher tendency of people who don't complete as well. So that rigor is there, that cross-curricular is there, and the fact that we're lifting it up in this manner with these kinds of texts, as well as a lot of the things I've had the opportunity to see in our CTE program. One of the things we have to continue to promote is we have a top-notch CTE career readiness program in this county. And you're doing a fabulous job with respect to that.
And I'd like to give credit to, I can't remember all the last names, forgive me. She works very closely with these people, and that's why she's presenting, because she knows what all these letter combinations mean. That's why I hired her. So really want to give credit to the teachers, because they're the ones that did the legwork to identify these texts, have the innovative ideas to get Briggs and Stratton. And so if we look at the auto tech, Sean Rydorf, Joseph Lazzarino, in conjunction with Nyasha, and with the BAMO book, Mike Waschlager, that's the one, Denise Cadwell alongside Nyasha. And I think it is important we have CTE at Farmington Central, and that BAMO book would be used at Farmington Central as well. And so, we'll be bringing more text to you this year, so this will be a fun year. And then we have one more text, Angie.
So I'm glad you mentioned Farmington Central. So since they will have those textbooks as well, are they able to go over to the schools to work on those engines or what have you as well?
Farmington Central right now has the business administration and management. They do not have the auto, but we do have students that can go from Farmington Central if they were to elect to go to the CTE auto program, if that was a choice they needed to make.
And also, Ms. Smith, remember that the NAF program is at Farmington Central, and so we're really trying to boost the business and finance at Central. Yes, ma'am.
And if you'd like, I'm happy to leave the small engines behind if anyone wants to take it home and continue to review. You're good? Okay, I didn't understand the book I'm glad that Dr. Blau got through the first couple pages and can teach us about history of engines. So I would like to bring up Kevin Meisner, who is our IB coordinator. So we have one more textbook adoption for our International Baccalaureate Spanish. In the IB program, there are 2 levels of the courses, standard level and higher level. And for every, can you explain the requirement for foreign language for our IB students?
To be part of them?
Yes.
So starting in at least 9th grade, students have to start in a foreign language or world language, and they have to continue the same one all the way through. They could start, well, I guess now in 8th grade, since we're discontinuing 7th grade, they could start in 8th grade, but they would have to then either continue or start fresh in 9th grade with a language and continue that through. So that means that we have students that enter the 11th grade diploma program that may have had anywhere from 2 to 3 years of the world language as they move on.
And in order to get the IB diploma, they have to have a course in foreign language, the world language. So we offer Spanish, French, Japanese, and sometimes finishing Arabic. Okay? And so what's neat about Spanish, and we talked about Costa Rica earlier today, is that it's really based on themes. And so you'll see here the different main core themes that are across all of the world language courses, as well as some sub-themes that Spanish is taught in the context of. Currently, we've been using an older textbook that's designed for Spanish level 3, which is not an IB text, which means it doesn't have natural connections to those themes running through the text. So we're proposing Spanish B. B is indicative of the IB, right? Remind me.
Spanish B means that it is the language that you're learning. Language A is the language that you're taking all of your classes in. So for our kids, language A is English. We do language and literature. And then B is Spanish, French, Japanese.
So hence you'll notice that the title in the text is Spanish B because it's indicative of that language of the International Baccalaureate. And so this is a well-known text within the curriculum of IB and is actually the same text and author publisher of our French version of this course. And so with our success with that text and knowing the ins and outs of the online features and the text, we felt it would be very appropriate to also use that same text in the IB Spanish course. And so that too is coming around for you to view.
Any questions?
We need the microphone.
All of a sudden my brain just...
Everybody's getting their steps in.
I know.
Is this because the students in the program take 4 years of the language or 5 years if they started in 8th grade? So is this a textbook that is going to be used in their senior year, or is it used throughout the 4 years? Is there Spanish 1B, 2B, 3B, 4B, or do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Thank you.
This would be for the junior and senior years, which is specific to IB.
Okay.
Their 8th grade, 9th grade, and 10th grade, they would be with all the other students that are doing Spanish or whatever world language. But, yeah. The current textbook doesn't address things like all the themes. It is strictly like teaching language and grammar, and IB assumes that students already know that. So we used that book as sort of a crutch for the students who needed it, and teachers were just pulling resources. This actually provides like a strong foundation for the teacher.
Again, it's really fascinating to see, the tie-in with art history and travel and family and just poetry. Fantastic.
And it's all written in Spanish, and I
Yes,
could understand
there's
that.
no English.
I could understand that just by looking at it, and I can't speak Spanish.
Either can I. Yeah, there isn't any, all of the instructions are in Spanish, everything in the book is in Spanish.
100%. And to that point, if you could take a moment and just lift up, because of those themes that are a part of this text, lift up the significance of the IB program as a whole and the benefit that it has to our students and the successes.
I'll be brief because I could talk for a long time, but IB has what's called a learner profile. That learner profile is a little bit longer than our learner profile, but that's just because the district took and kind of squished them together. They're pretty much mirror images. So all of the things that the district's promoting with the learner profile, IB has been doing too. So and that's through all the courses. Every course is designed with the learner profile at the foundation and then builds from there.
Any other questions? Okay. All right.
Thank you very much for your time, and these items will come up for board action at the next board meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so very much. If members of the community wish to see these textbooks, where might they go to browse through them?
So there was one version of the PowerPoint that's public-facing and one version of the PowerPoint that's board-facing, because I can't, for example, the demo for the BAMO book, I can't have the public go into the demo site and look because it would break copyright. That's just for us for preview purposes. And so I think the same thing, unless this Spanish excerpt I can check was publicly available online, I wouldn't be able to share that unless we've purchased it. Does that make sense?
I was just wondering, are they going to be at central office?
I see.
Yeah, I would recommend, at least for the hard copy books, we'd
Yeah.
be happy to keep them at central office, and any
Understood.
community member or board member who would like to come to central administrative building would
We
be
can
able to
have
do
that as a
and
standard.
peruse those as well.
Yep.
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
that's what.
that makes sense now, sorry. We just
Yeah.
can't share all that electronic stuff that I shared with the board, with the community.
Right, got it. So anyone in the community who's interested in taking a look at these 3 books that we're considering purchasing can come to central office, and they'll be here, available here for you to browse through. Okay, thank you. All right, it is time for public comment. When you have a question or concern about something here in Farmington Public Schools, the first person to talk with is the person closest to the situation, which in many cases is the classroom teacher. From there, it would be your building principal. From there, it would be the person in the district in charge of that department, the DEI department, curriculum, athletics, et cetera, depending upon your particular question or issue of concern. From there, you would reach out to our superintendent, Dr. Delgado. These are the individuals who are in the position to most quickly address and resolve your questions and concerns. Also, please remember that this is not a public meeting. Rather, this is a school board meeting held in public. For this reason, while we may follow up with you in the days following this board meeting, we will not respond to public comments made during this meeting, not during public comment, nor during the good and welfare portion of tonight's meeting. I will be available immediately following tonight's meeting to talk with anyone who wishes to do so and to help connect you with the district personnel and resources that may be of help to you. If you would like to speak during this portion of our meeting, please fill out a public comment card. They're available at the back of the room over there, and hand it to Mrs. Sterin. You will each have 3 minutes to speak. We thank you in advance for your appropriate use of language and respectful demeanor during your comments. Mr. Leboway?
Thank you. Thank you. I have a couple of general areas to talk about. One is asks, and I'm asking the board to rewrite the Farmington Public School proclamation to replace hate with friendship. And if you wonder what I mean, I already sent you my draft of that revised
proclamation in the summer of 2020. My other asks are, let teachers be teachers again. Let kids be students of 3 R's and science again. And most importantly, let parents raise their children according to their own principles again. Now moving to finance. During the COVID epidemic, the district receives about $7 million per year of federal and state money to help educate students, to deal with student learning loss, etc. And compared to the last pre-COVID budget, this bought 7 more teachers out of 26 total staff additions. Newspapers have been filled since the beginning of September with reports of Michigan test scores declining, more third graders flagged for retention, and federal 4th grade test scores plummeting. So here are my questions. What did we buy with that $7 million? What did you expect the payback to be? What are the results? And will we see those results before the election? Haven't seen them yet. And then finally, when I hit a pothole in Costa Rica, my muffler was dangling. I went into a ferreteria to buy a C-clamp. Well, that caused me a problem because it was a C-clamp, not a C-clamp. I worked it out with a store clerk. He brought out some wire, cut it with his Swiss Army knife, and wired up my mufflero. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leboway. Mr. Steele?
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to talk about the proposed purchase on Interchange Drive. Enjoyed the presentation. Sounds like there's a lot of goodness in the proposal. I understand, central office and the current bus depot are in pretty bad shape and a little bit worn out. Looks like Mr. Barth has done his homework as always and due diligence to get a good deal. My one issue is it was presented as primarily a new transportation depot. And some of the stated needs were, needed to be, I believe, 4 acres, wanted it away from nearby housing and away from schools. Unfortunately, it sounds like most of the buses will be housed at either Power or Warner. I'm very familiar with Power, not so much with Warner, but I believe there's housing extremely close to both parking lots. You had mentioned, buses start at 5 or 6 a.m., loud with the diesel engines. There's lights, possibly horns. Both of those schools, I believe, have, throughout the year, nighttime activities, weekend activities. If the parking lots are full of buses, where are those people going to park? I realize that, real estate is kind of a hot market right now, especially commercial real estate, and your choices may be limited. I just hope that you're not rushing through this to get what is overall sounds like a good deal, but not considering all the other considerations that need to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steele. Ms. Tremblay?
Hi, good evening, school board and Dr. Delgado. I come to you tonight as a very appreciative parent, but also a very concerned parent. I just want to give Farmington High School staff and the child that spoke up, and our Farmington police, a big kudos. It was so great to have my son come home safe yesterday, so I just want to say thank you to them. Now, that was the positive. Here's sort of a negative. So my son is in the IB program, and I'm sure you guys all know what the IB program is. And Mr. Meisner, who is absolutely wonderful, spoke about it and the importance of it. Well, we're on week 4, and my son still does not have an IB Spanish teacher. The first 2 weeks, they did nothing. They didn't have even a sub. They had somebody come in, take attendance, and then they sat there watching the kids, keeping them safe. So I'm appreciative for that. Week 3, we had a sub. Said it was, they came in. They said it was going to be a long-term sub. Didn't work out. Week 4, we found that out last Friday. Week 4, we had a teacher come in. Guess what? They're gone already. And we were told they were going to be a long-term sub. Today, my IB student cleaned out a cupboard. I think that's really disappointing. I know this situation is not ideal right now. I know that we do not have the teachers. We're looking for teachers. But I am concerned when an IB student is working at trying to get to MIT and he's cleaning out a cupboard. So I'm very concerned about that. I did speak to Dr. Delgado about this at our PTSA meeting. Again, Mr. Delgado, I challenge you. Come teach these kids. There are 12 kids in the junior class and 12 in the senior class. Your Spanish is absolutely phenomenal. You proved that tonight. If not, we have a phenomenal teacher at FHS. I know we're not supposed to mention names, but I think she deserves a kudos. Her name is Mrs. Michaels. She's absolutely phenomenal. My son has had her. The IB students love her. She knows the kids. I know when I talked to the principal at our school, she said she's teaching 6 other classes. These are IB students, you guys. Let's nourish them. Pull her out, or give her the compensation she needs, and pull in just another Spanish teacher. She's got the credentials. She's proven herself to Farmington by staying with us, and I think that if we invest in her, then I think we'll be on the right track. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention because I don't know if you all are aware about what's going on at the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gibbons?
Thank you. So a little bit about myself. My background is actually in education, and I've heard a lot tonight that is kind of alarming here in the district. So I moved here with my family. My eldest daughter, she's 31. She actually graduated from Bloomfield Hills Schools. At that time, we were in a condominium. We moved here to Farmington when the test scores were high and special education was pinnacle. We do not have a special education student in our house, but it was a huge drawing feature that a district was investing so much in special education. So, what brings me here tonight is a couple of things. One, primarily the IB students. As Heidi just mentioned, we are in week 4. Our students are cleaning out cupboards. Those of you that are not familiar with the IB program, I'm sorry, I'm going to try to fit a lot of information into 3 minutes. Those of you that are not familiar, these students are tested. At the end of their 4 years, they are in a diploma program. It is completely different than the Farmington Public Schools diploma program. The last 2 years, their junior and senior year, they are strictly in an international baccalaureate program that is global. The global education system dictates what these students are required to learn. They're required to have 4 years of a foreign language. Parents that are currently in the junior class were given the wrong information because there were changes. When the program was moved over from Harrison over to Farmington High School, there was a miscommunication, and we were told that our students that were in Japanese in 8th grade could not take that they had to be in a different foreign language starting their freshman year at Farmington High. So those students that switch languages are already behind because they should have been able to continue in the IB Spanish program. First week, we didn't have teachers. Second week, we didn't have teachers. They were not speaking Spanish. The levels in the IB program are standard level and higher level. In the standard level Spanish test, and you have to select going in whether you're going to be higher level classes or standard level classes, and you are required to determine which ones you want. So really quickly, you have to score a 24 in order to get a diploma, and they are out of 42 possible points. So really quickly, I just was showing my time. The question is, our students, as teachers, we're told we have to have scope and sequence. So I'm challenging this district to determine what is your scope and what is the sequence to get there. All right.
Thank you. Moving on to action items, and I am not sure what the appropriate wording is for this section. We didn't have any action items the last couple times, and so I didn't have any notes. So what would be the appropriate wording for this section? Okay, Ms. Heinrich, go ahead.
We have the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
You have the microphone. Do you have the motion?
I'd like to move, thank you.
I'd like to move that the Board of Education award bid pack number 16 for Visions Unlimited improvements as outlined in the September 20th, 2022 letters from Plant Moran Cressa and McCarthy Smith in the amount of $7,558,478.47. Funds to come from the Capital Projects Building and Site 2018 Fund and the Capital Projects Building and Site 2020 Fund.
We have a motion on the bid pack number 16 put forward by Ms. Weems and seconded by Mr. Walker. All in favor? No, discussion. Discussion? Any discussion? We have to do roll call. Oh, because it's Chair. Any discussion? Okay, could we have,
Just add that we've had this discussion at the previous meeting, so I think I'm looking around and my board members are nodding their heads, so I think that we feel like we've gotten adequate information about this item.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walker, roll call, please. Thanks, everybody, for the help.
Mr. Rich? Yes. Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, motion carries. Next, in our action items, we need to determine who will be our MASB delegate, assembly designate for the upcoming annual leadership conference in Traverse City in October. Mr. Rich, have you decided whether or not you won't be able to go? Ms. Fox, have you determined if you're going to be able to attend?
I have not gotten that information.
You haven't gotten that information.
I'll try to get it to you as soon as I can.
Okay, that would be great. My son is graduating from the Marine Corps that weekend, so otherwise I would jump at the chance to be at the annual leadership conference. It's a phenomenal learning opportunity and networking opportunity, and I would be honored to serve as our delegate designate, but I can't be in two places at one time. Ms. Smith, might you be? No, you're not. Okay. Okay. So we will hope that, Ms. Fox, that you're able to attend. Is there anyone else who might be able to attend? I know it's campaign season, so it's a difficult time to be away.
Conflict as well.
I'll be at the CTE conference.
CTE conference, yeah.
We're not required to have a delegate, I don't think.
Yeah, that's my understanding. We aren't required to have a delegate, but if
We've gone
any-
to every MASB conference for the past couple of years, and it just so happens that all of us cannot go to this.
Right, this particular one. So, okay, well, we can only do the best we can do, right? So, Ms. Fox, let me know if you are able to attend. Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. All right, items from the treasurer, Ms. Heinrich.
Thank you. I move that the Board of Education approve the expenditures as outlined in the expenditure printout dated September 20th, 2022 as follows. General Fund, $12,770,370. General Fund Athletics, $54,483. Debt Fund, 0. Capital Projects, Technology and Other Projects, 0. Capital Projects, 2018 Bond Fund, $295,313. Capital Projects 2020 Bond Fund, $4,380,493. Nutrition Services Fund, $281,959. Benefits Stabilization Fund, $1,849,517. Total, $19,632,135.
Motion put forward by Ms. Heinrich and supported by Mr. Rich. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, could we have a roll call vote? Or we can just do, oh, because the amounts were so high, we still. Okay. Maybe by June, I'll have it figured out. Okay. Thanks, everybody. All right, so all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to the consent agenda, is there a motion? Ms. Weems, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'll screen here. I move that.
Here you go.
Thank you.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes from the September 6, 2022 regular meeting, which includes the Head Start Director's monthly report and personal items. I apologize, I need to restate the motion. I'd like to move that the board approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes from the September 6, 2020 regular meeting and Head Start Director's monthly report and personnel items.
Support.
There's a motion by Ms. Weems to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Ms. Smith. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. All right. Do we have any reports from board representatives this evening? Yes, Ms. Smith.
Last night was the Farmington PTA council meeting, which was a huge turnout. We had someone from, Be Smart for Kids, Jeff Bozell. He spoke on gun safety. He also brought up that he also had locks available if we were interested in having them. You know, we let it be known that we have one of the great police departments in Farmington Hills that we can get our locks from. They also, mentioned that our senior breakfast for our senior citizens, not seniors in high school. So that would fall under me. Senior breakfast will be at the Caustic Center this year. We are live and open. That will be October 19th over at the Caustic Center. There's also a shoe drive with the Boy Scouts, and that's from the 17th through the 28th. And they also have a day where you can just come and try on shoes as well. We also will be having starting November 1st, our can drive for Thanksgiving through those holidays. We also had parents that came out and spoke about the issues that happened with Farmington yesterday, as well as East. And they would like to know, can we have a community conversation and dialogue around the discussions of what do we do when we have incidents like this, and is there a way that elementary schools and students and parents could have those conversations as well, and also be notified as well when you have a building lockdown, opposed to just being at the local high school or at the middle school. There is a lot of false rumors going around out there. They wanted some clarification. There was conversations about some things that were not being done at Farmington High that they wanted to be addressed. So there's conversations around wanting to have a community forum with the superintendent and other schools to hear what we do, and also about how do we go about removing students that have made threats. Is there certain things that we do to them when they make these threats to our buildings?
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Are there any other board reports? Yes, Ms. Fox.
Thank you. For this school year, I am going to be the liaison for the African American Parent Network, which we call FAMPN. And I just want, FAMPN representative is here tonight, and he is Mr. Thomas Hull, who is the president. I'm very happy to be a part of what they are doing to support the community. The FAMPN organization offers tutoring every Saturday from 9 to 11 o'clock. It's at no fee. Parents can bring their students in as a drop-in. We have tutors who will, from anywhere from first grade all the way to 12th grade in math, English, science. And so we are doing, it's been a very wonderful program, and we are continuing it beginning October the 1st, again, right here in this building and in this room. And so for any of you who are interested in tutoring, we will need both adult tutors as well as high school student tutors. They've done a wonderful job over the years with this particular situation. Anything else I need to say? Yes, and the high school students would get volunteer hours as well. This past Saturday, FAMPN kicked off their ice cream social open house, and the open house offered exhibitors in terms of our community partners, which was the Farmington PTA, the LOC Credit Union, the Farmington Area YWCA, the Dream Kings, and which is a mentoring program, and the Farmington Community Library, as well as the Farmington Youth Assistance. They were all there during our open house. And so everything is, it's just a wonderful program, and we hope to see many of you and many of our communities out bringing their students in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Any other reports from board representatives? Okay, seeing none. Recommendations for future agenda items. Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
Yes, I have two things. One thing, I wondered if Dr. Delgado could give us a report on staffing and personnel as far as where we are as a district. You know, and the consent agenda, we approve all the new hires, and we see that there's been a tremendous influx of new hires in the district over the summer, but we heard tonight, we're not supposed to comment on public comments, but, you know, there's still needs, which also segs into, I'd like to wonder if we could have a report on the middle school program also, because we talked about that and asked about that, and one of the things was there weren't enough bus drivers and did not know if we were going to able to provide transportation for that. So maybe a report on what's going on with the middle school program, just because it's such a wonderful resource. Those middle school years are the years that are really crucial. It's such a wonderful program that provides an environment and a place for those children to go after school, to be supervised, to have wholesome activities, and And I know that our district partners with Farmington Youth Assistance to provide that, but just a report on what we do and how that's going, and if we got those bus drivers. And just for staffing, teachers, support staff too. I mean, just where we are as a district, you know, as far as percentage, are we capacity or what we're needed?
So as I pass the microphone, I'll just take the liberty to say Mr. Paddock is still in the audience, and so congratulations, sir. They just approved you and gave you your first task. So staffing and personnel report. But just very quickly, we are nearly fully staffed. We continue to have challenges like all districts, particularly in special education, with a lot of districts that are swapping both paraprofessionals as well as very specialized teachers in some of our self-contained programs. But we will get you a comprehensive update, get the board an update on our staffing process. And just to comment on the middle school program, yes, we were very successful. Finally, kudos to Mr. Barth and Mr. Hill working with the city to secure drivers. So we have our middle school program at the Hawk up and running. It was up and running as of the very first day of school. And so we have buses that are going to all 4 of our middle schools to recommit to our commitment as a school district to partner with our community for that wonderful middle school program. So we have 2 buses that are doing routes of the 4 schools, but we'll put that in more of an executive summary fashion for the Board of Education.
Fantastic. Other future agenda items? Nope. That's it? Okay. All right. Good and welfare. Yes.
I had the opportunity to go to the Farmington and North Farmington game on Friday. What a good game. I enjoyed myself. Those students were awesome. I could not believe the crowd. The proceeds, I believe, Mr. Rich, weren't they for special ed? It was Special Olympics. And so everyone had these real cool shirts. Mr. Rich and I was able to get one of those shirts. And I also had the opportunity to go over to the library this past Sunday. And trying to get in there, I thought it was like going to the state fair. We couldn't get in, and you had to park all the way over almost near the freeway to see people and students and parents wanting books. And were extremely excited to go in and be able to go in and get books. We had people that had never been in our library before. We had people that most of them didn't even live in our community, but those that did, they were excited. People standing in line getting library cards was just simply amazing to see that parents and kids and grandparents with their grandkids standing there. They had a rock climbing wall, they had putt-putt golf and popcorn, and it was just a beautiful turnout and it was a great weekend, the weather-wise. Also, like Dr. Delgado explained, this is the Spanish-speaking month and Heritage Month for Spanish-speaking people. I am a very proud biracial Puerto Rican woman myself, so I am excited about these next few weeks, and that's pretty much it under Good and Welfare.
Thank you. I'm going to try not to repeat. I've got 5 points. First, I echo your point around the game. I've been attending the game since the school year started, and what I'm most excited about is how excited kids seem to be about being back in school. It feels very good. The school spirit is awesome. I love the student sections. They are amazing. I love that they're doing something different every week, from white night to luau night to blackouts. It's really nice, and they're all really, really engaged. Despite whatever the game outcome is, they don't really care. They're just happy to be there, and I'm happy for them. I also attended the FAPN event. Thank you, Mrs. Fox, for raising that. Learned a lot. I spent some time at one table that shared a resource that I want to share with you. It's called Brain Fuse. It is homework help. And essentially, you can get free tutoring. You just call this number. Shoot, I was supposed to tell you what it was.
Yeah, so look up BrainFuse. It's also with the Farmington Public Library, so you'll be able to find it there. But essentially, you can get homework help, live tutoring, right? You can also, there's a 24-hour writing lab. If your student has to write an essay, you submit it, and they'll give you feedback before you have to turn it in, which I thought was outstanding. There are homework questions that you can send in. I just thought that was a fabulous resource. I also
Hang
went...
on one second.
Yes.
On that point, we are going to be having the Farmington Community Library folks come to a board meeting to share those resources, and they have a slew of other resources also available for tutoring, for parenting help, the 24-hour writing lab.
Yes,
Whoa.
that's awesome.
Where was that one?
I know,
You know,
right?
so they're going to be coming to a future board meeting. Dr. Delgado is reaching out to them so that they can come and share all those resources with us. And there are also resources available for teachers as well. So
great. Also attended the library extravaganza. There were over 700 people who registered for that event, and it showed. It was huge. It was a great event. Lots of outdoor, indoor activities. I also wanted to share this talk resource. It's called, you text talk to 75547, and these are for folks who've got a 0 to 3-year-old. You text talk to 75547 to get weekly developmental tips on where your child should be developmentally on a weekly basis. I thought that was pretty awesome too.
that same text, so you've taken all my points, but that's it.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
It's okay. It's good stuff. So that same text thing, they will text you, I believe each day, read a book to your child.
Yeah,
Today,
yeah,
go
it's
for a
great.
walk and point to all the fun. It has like even little daily things that you can do. So go ahead.
There's a lot of programming that I was already familiar with, but I learned a lot more. So they've still got the Read to a Dog, which is absolutely amazing. The support animals that they have at the library are great. So you can register for that, and lots of teen activities. That's where I am now. So get back to the library. Our libraries are great. They're wonderful. Get back to the library. I know it's been a minute. The next thing I wanted to talk about was, open houses were over the course of the past couple of weeks, and I learned a lot. So our teachers are doing some really amazing, innovative things. In each of the classes, I was pretty much amazed at how well they started to know the kids and at what they were already doing. So in psychology, as an example, my 10th grader is going to get to hold and handle a real human brain. They've got lots of opportunities to do some really cool things. Now, if kids are not interested in that, they don't have to. But I think it's cool that they get to do all of these things. The other thing that I thought was great was the feedback I got from teachers about some of the changes that the board has made in recent years about how we want kids to be assessed. Right, so taking away some of the assignments or points for homework or personalities or stuff like that and really focusing on assessment, they say has resulted, it's a bit more work for them, but it's more rewarding. So as an example, because kids get an opportunity to reassess, it's not about that first test, it's about whether you've mastered over time. So if you're in English, as an example, and you turn in your test or turn in your paper and you've got some feedback from the teacher, they've got all this, handwriting. Previously, that paper and all that feedback would have been given to the child or the student, and the student may likely throw it away, right? Because the paper's over, the assignment's done, but now because they have an opportunity to reassess or to do over, they're actually reading the red ink and the notes, and they're doing something with it, and they're getting better, and they're noticing that there's actually learning going on. So I thought that was really great. I also appreciated, you mentioned middle school. Warner's doing something different called teaming, which I thought was great. These cohorts of students get to stay together, and the teachers stay together, and so they really get to know the kids, and they're building really deep relationships, and I think that's really great, especially transitioning from elementary school to middle school. We know, based on the data, that's where you get some of that, transition kind of loss, but they're sort of mirroring a bit more of a communal, environment at the middle school, which I think is great.
It's sort of like it's called a middle school concept, and when I taught at Bernie Middle School about 1 million years ago. We were experimenting with it too. And it's sort of like a school within a school type of an idea. So you have a science teacher, a math teacher, an English teacher, and a social studies teacher who all share the same, say, 150 students.
Yeah.
And so all the students on that team, on my team, I have all of them for social studies, and you have all of them for science, and you have all of them for math, and you have all of them for the other topics. So every week we get together and we talk about all of our students, and not just how they're doing academically, but did you notice that so-and-so seems kind of down lately, or, you know, and also then different students feel comfortable connecting with different teachers, and so it gives us a really sort of, it gives us a nice net within which to hold all of our students so that we can really address all of their academic and social emotional.
And just to interject and clarify, this is happening at all of our middle schools. This
Okay.
is an initiative that we launched this year. We recommitted to the middle school philosophy and the teaming construct. It was something that we provided professional development for, as well as about a year last year of exploration with our administrative team to bring them up to speed, as some of them had junior high school background or senior high school background as opposed to middle school. So we're very excited about those possibilities and look forward to bringing some update back to the board later in the year about our middle school teaming efforts.
I love that. Well, unfortunately, I only have the one experience with Warner, but that's good to know. I think it's great. And then just one last point. I met some business owners over the weekend, and you know, I've always thought it was very important to develop relationships across our community, especially with our business community, to understand what their employment needs are and how we're, you know, getting kids ready for, you know, after Farmington Public Schools. And it just happened that I was talking to the guy that owns the Big Salad, which is also a friend of mine in downtown Farmington, and he offered to host several times a week a fundraiser for all of our schools. All of our schools. So every school PTA is going to get to participate in a restaurant day. So if you're a parent in the district, you may have heard, you know, you go to one restaurant and 10% of the sales for that day will go back to that school. He's agreed to do it for all of our schools over the course of maybe like 6 to 8 weeks. So I'm gonna work with the PTA to figure out like which school goes first, second, third. We'll figure it out. But I thought that was awesome, and I'd love to do that with more businesses who are interested. So thank you.
Fantastic.
Just, I play Monopoly with my granddaughter. She likes to be the banker, and she has a lot of money and goes by Moneybags Maggie. Or I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so here's Moneybags Mrs. Heinrich, because when you're talking about teaming, which they did in the middle schools when my kids were in school, they did, but it went away when all the budget cuts came, and teaming is more expensive. And so when our community asks, what are we doing with those extra dollars? And all of these programs cost money to implement, and so, you know, kudos to our district for good stewardship of our resources and really putting it into programs that are proven to impact student learning. And our teachers in our schools are focusing on teaching and learning, and we're not where we need to be in terms of school funding, but we're moving in that direction. So, you know, our community members continue to advocate for adequate school funding.
So this is just a quick announcement. So in order to attend any of the service academies, so that is the Military Academy at West Point, the Naval Academy in Annapolis, the Coast Guard Academy, doesn't require a congressional nomination, but then the Merchant Marine Academy does require a nomination, as well as the Air Force Academy. So Air Force, military, naval, and merchant marine academies all require a congressional nomination in order to attend, or a special nomination from either that branch or the vice president. And so in order to go, that has a, going to the academy is a 4-year full scholarship. Essentially, it equates to a little over $250,000 up to $300,000 completely paid for. So that's full scholarship, room and board, clothes, laptop, all that, including stipends. And so there's an informational night on the Academy process for congressional nominations being put on by Congresswoman Stevens' office as well as Senator Peters' office in a joint Zoom session, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, September 28th. So that is at 7 p.m. You can find more information and the registration link on their social media accounts, so I know that that's been posted there. If you have any other questions on that process, feel free to reach out to any of their offices, and they would be more than happy to answer those questions. So great opportunities for our students who are looking at entering the armed services after graduation. Following your graduation from any of the academies, you enter into one of those branches with a full commission as an officer. So just wanted to put that out there. Once again, next Wednesday, the 28th at 7 p.m., there will be a joint Zoom session with the offices of Congresswoman Haley Stevens and Senator Gary Peters on the Service Academy nomination process, as well as what their offices are doing for the nominations.
And Mr. Rich, just to clarify, these would be high school opportunities, right?
Correct. So this is typically for high school seniors. However, you can apply up to a certain age. So you sometimes see freshmen or sophomores in college applying as well.
Thank you so much. Any other good and welfare? Okay, well, our next meeting of the Board of Education will be held here on October 11th, 2022 at 6 p.m. The meeting is open to the public and will be cablecast live on TV 10. Thank you all. We are adjourned.